Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live transfer deadline day show. We are going to be live for the next 2 hours or so. We're going to be bringing you the final moments of the transfer window. I'm joined by James Pendleton from the Babbling Blues. Welcome to the show, James. How are you feeling going into the transfer deadline, last 2 hours of the window? How do you see it panning out? I mean, we've already got one over the line, of course. We'll get on to that, of course, but yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it's gone pretty well. I think the Dele Alli deal's getting there. Donny van der Beek been confirmed. Lampard confirmed today. All looks pretty good to me. I'm quite enthused by what we've done. We've done more than I thought we'd do this window in terms of bringing in the fullbacks as well. So I'm feeling good, and obviously I just hoping that Dele Alli gets over the line now.
Ghana. See, this is the thing. Like, I keep getting thoughts I've got. I thought there wasn't much in the Ghana rumours, but is there anything to that now?
I'd be very surprised. I was looking to see that. I think he's played the fourth most minutes of any PSG player this season. So, and Ndombele's gone to Lyon. So, I'd be really surprised if we were to get him. But yeah, we get linked to him every window, it seems now, I think.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much about that, to be honest. I'd love it to happen, but I don't think it's going to. We'll get straight into, obviously, the live chat. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, we've got loads of rumours, obviously. Erwin Koeman, Donny the Beast, Donny van der Beek is the one signing that has been confirmed already so far today. On loan from Man United. What's your take on that one, James?
Really pleased, to be fair. I think that'll be a really good signing for us, or so long as he should be anyway. I think he was really good at Ajax. He was in that really good Ajax team from a couple of years ago. I think he's got a lot of the sort of skill set that you need to succeed in England. And I just think he went to United. They were under pressure to sign someone. They couldn't get Jadon Sancho, so they went and got a bit of a cut price deal. He was meant to go to Madrid the season before for 50 million, I think. So I think they kind of went out and just got someone over the line, and he's not better than Pogba. He's not better than Bruno Fernandes, so he's not managed to play in either of those positions consistently enough. But yeah, I'm really excited for him. I think he'll be a nice addition for us. I watched his all the goals he scored for Ajax during his Ajax days, I should say. And that sort of player arriving in the box late, running beyond the striker, dare I say, very Frank Lampard-esque. A lot of the goals he scored, obviously, in a weaker league with one of the better teams, of course. But if he can come in and get half a dozen goals, I think that'd be a really nice addition for us.
Fingers crossed. I think, like we say, we need to have more goals from across the board.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think you look at kind of Gray being our main goal threat, obviously, with Charleston and Calvert-Lewin as well, but with Dele Alli potentially as well, I think if he gets 1 or 2 goals for us, he'd be in the top 20, the highest goal scoring midfielders ever to play in the Premier League, which for someone who's been off the rails for so long, that's a really good achievement, and that's just sort of a taste of what there is to come for him potentially. I think if anything,
haven't we? I'll be getting back on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think while football's not an exact science, so sort of saying that you get an attacking midfielder, the manager, and the best exponent of that England's potentially ever seen in Frank Lampard, that's going to make Dele Alli a better player or whatever, but I'm sure you'll learn plenty from him. He's got that knack, Dele Alli, of being in the right place at the right time. I think when he was scoring goals, he was making late runs into the box, so the sort of intangibles that you can't really teach, and no one's better at that than Frank Lampard, so it could be a match made in heaven for us, and I say he's obviously meant to be here beyond this season, so that's really exciting. But between those two, I just think we can get double-digit goals between the pair of them, and maybe even our guards chipping in with 1 or 2, then I think that'd be really, really good for us.
Well, like I say, we're hoping to see more reinforcements to the squad in the last few hours of the window, but we've got a reinforcement of our own on the stream, a new addition. We've got Paul joining the stream very short.
Hello, boys.
Here he is. Nice. Welcome to the show, Paul. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, boys. I've been sat there listening for the last 5 or so minutes. It's been an interesting night, hasn't it? It feels like it was only last month James, that we were on here last year with Dave from the County Bobblers and talking about Josh King suddenly coming here on a 6-month deal and how we thought it made all the sense in the world. And here we are again a year later. And again, it's looking like it's going to be a very, very good window for us. Wouldn't say it's been a brilliant window because a couple of these players who we're bringing in, it could go either way, couldn't it? But you've got to be satisfied with what's happening at the club, considering we still are in a mess, but considering the absolute anarchy that was going on 2 weeks ago, not even that, things suddenly look a lot brighter again, don't they?
Oh, certainly, but like I say, there's some gambles on the signings we've made, but the low risk, I think some of them, like we'll discuss, obviously, Donny van der Beek's a straight loan deal from Man United till the end of the season.
Did I hear you say then, James, that... Did I hear you say, James, not you, James Wharton, the other James, did you say there's a possibility that he stays beyond this season? Because I've not seen that. I thought it was just a straight loan and then we'll kind of look at it again in the summer. Is there an option there for us to buy him, or are Man United definitely looking to get rid of him in the summer and they're just trying to put him in the shop window now? Does anyone know any more about this? Well, Van der Beek, is he definitely...
Dele Alli when I said that, I think.
All right.
I've not seen anything about Van der Beek. I think it entirely will depend on who their manager is, you'd imagine. So I'd be surprised if he to stay beyond the season, because I think if he does well, there'll be other teams after him, to be fair. But I'm more talking about Dele Alli because that's meant to be a transfer, isn't it? So
yeah, the Dele Alli one's a bit of a weird one in the sense that, again, it seems like it's the type of signing that we've made over the last 4 or 5 years that just hasn't worked. I mean, hopefully this one is the exception, and it does, but we tend to always kind of sign players who've got big names, who've kind of done well somewhere else and already made the name. And then when they lose the way a little bit, we give them a second chance a year. And within 12, 18 months, we're just basically back. We're in the position that the selling club was in, where we don't want them. And we're trying to just get them off the books as quickly as we can. So be interesting with Dele Alli. I don't think we really desperately needed someone in his position, but he's got quality. And if he can get his head down and recapture his best form, he's only going to make Everton better, isn't he? But
obviously, he's a very gifted player. He's just he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he?
I think he's similar to Ross Barkley in the sense that he's burst onto the scene so early when he was so young that he was always going to find it hard to maintain those levels. But it's not helped he's not helped himself in the fact that I think he has kind of let himself get distracted a bit too much. Said young lads, got a big contract very early doors, playing for a big club that was playing in the Champions League at the time when he broke through, and he had other big names along there with him, like Harry Kane and Trippier and Eric Dyer and Son. Kind of play. Some of them are still there, some of them aren't. But just that generation of Tottenham players from 5 years ago, everyone thought they were going to achieve really big things, and it's not quite worked out that way. But it's probably not one of the reasons. Probably not worked out that way is a couple of those players maybe believe their own hype a bit too much, and I think Dele Alli was maybe one who fell victim to that.
I think probably more than anyone, but I think someone mentions in the chat here, in the live chat, with regards to Dele Alli, Semi-Charmed Life said, will Ali play hard or verify his lazy status? Obviously, there's that meme going around of him taking the mickey in a team talk with Mourinho, so I don't know.
I've not seen that. Was that just him having fun and it was no big deal, or was that kind of him rolling his eyes type thing, undermining the manager?
He was laughing his head off while Mourinho basically called him lazy straight to his face.
Yeah, I seem to remember this was it from the documentary, wasn't it?
I did, yeah. I only saw little clips of that, but that doesn't sound good, does it? I mean, there's been questions about his attitude for a couple of years now, and there's more than one manager now. It's not just Mourinho, it's Conte as well. Managers who've won and are, in Conte's case, top of the game, who just can't be doing with him at all. So you just don't know, do you? There's a lot more risk involved with that. I know the financials sound quite good. That we've got to play him at least 20 times before we've got to pay any money at all. But you've got to flip that round and look at the fact that Tottenham are just that desperate to get rid of him. They're willing to not take any fee for him for the time being. So
yeah, I think it works out for both parties, I think, the deal, because for us, we have to start doing this. I think, especially with these sort of players who have gone off the rails a bit, I think if we're going to take a chance, it does have to be heavily incentive based, and I think it works out for both parties in that respect. Because if he doesn't work out well, then Spurs will see less money, but they'll be vindicated in getting rid of him. If he works out well, then Spurs will see money and we'll see results.
Yeah, I think it's super hard to sort of speculate at the minute because you don't know Dele Alli, on like a personal level. We don't know what he's gone through the past last 18 months in terms of not just Tottenham, but obviously England as well. I'm sure he'd want to be in that World Cup squad come the end of the year, and the extra sort of time he's going to get from that as well could be quite interesting. It's all going to entirely depend on Dele Alli. I think if he wants to talk about England for a second, he wants to be in the England squad, then I think Southgate likes him. Southgate likes to keep the same sort of players in, whether they necessarily deserve or whether they don't. And I think it's quite hard for him to replace some of these players. So I think if he can get him into a system that works for him, if he comes in and he shows Dele Alli a few seasons ago, then that would obviously be perfect for us. And obviously the money will start to go up and up. But it is just so hard for us to sort of say whether we think it's going to work yet, because it could end up being a complete flop for us, or it could work all right. It could be really good. We just don't know yet. So it's going to be interesting what happens when he first comes in, especially how I think he sort of starts, whether he's in ahead of Van der Beek, what sort of system we play and where he plays, if he's just behind the striker, where I thought he was at his best at Tottenham. Is he going to be in a midfield three? It's really hard as well, because we've got a new manager. We're not entirely sure what system he's going to play. So I think it's exciting because obviously the finances at the minute aren't too bad on the deal. And then it just kind of sort of go from there after his fair few games to see how he gets on, I think.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we need to take minimal risks on, and I think we've gone about it the right way. I think, we should definitely play every sort of deadline's ideal. You've got to try and minimise the risk. There's not really much value in this market normally, so to get a good deal is sometimes a tough ask.
It's a big game of bluff, isn't it, on transfer deadline day, because agents don't make any money for the next 6 months. So they're going to be trying everything they possibly can to get their players removed and making promises that they know their clients, the player, can't possibly keep. They'll ring up managers, directors of football, other agents, and they'll say, my player's desperate to come to your club. He loves the vision. He loves the manager. He wants to get away from where he is. He just needs a fresh start and someone to give him a chance, and he'll go back to the player he was a couple of years ago when everyone was raving over him. And then he gets that move, and then ultimately he's just the same old. And then that team that's bought him is thinking, oh, what have we actually done here? We got taken. I think that's happened to Everton a couple of times, hasn't it? We've signed players who didn't work at all. Teams thinking that. Yeah, Wolby. I don't think Arsenal got rid of Wolby because of any attitude problems. They just got rid of him because they realised he wasn't ever going to be good enough for what they wanted. But I imagine his agent has got on the phone to Everton and just basically sold them a bill of goods that if he just played under a manager who believed in him and he starts 30 plus games in a system that suits him, then he's going to be a top class player. He's shown flashes of it, and Everton have obviously believed that and brought him in, and he's done next to nothing all that time. And there's probably a couple of other examples as well, just players who he decides to give a second chance to, in the sense of they've kind of been around a while and everyone knows who they are, and they're not an unknown quantity. They're not like a young player who just wants a chance somewhere. They're already a player who's established, who everyone knows what they can and can't do. And we just think for some reason if we get them in here, then all the bad aspects of all their negatives will drop away and the positives will come to the fore. And I think that's what's happening here with Dele Alli. We probably just convinced ourselves that if we get him in here in a new environment, he'll go back to the Dele Alli he was a couple of years ago. But it's never that simple. Just changing an environment, changing a manager, changing a team. It's got to be the player's attitude himself. It's got to be the player's lifestyle. Because one thing that worries me, he's meant to be a bit of a Jack the Lad, isn't he? Dele Alli. Maybe that's unfair, and I'm just going on like a perception of him that's false. But there's been like stories about him over the years, and there's been the odd video release. Yeah, there's been the odd thing that's come out where you see Dele Alli maybe not covering himself in glory, but coming up to Liverpool, Merseyside, is it's something you've got to take into consideration, isn't it? Is he basically going to be coming into the wrong type of part of the country for him to get his head down and concentrate? If he was going somewhere like, I don't know, Wolves or Leicester, then I think you wouldn't have those worries as much. But we've seen players come up here with loads of talent, but ultimately let off the field stuff distract them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them don't necessarily live in Liverpool or.
Yeah, but they're in the bubble, aren't they? They're in the goldfish bowl. They feel the intensity of the city. They feel the intensity of the fans. Some of the time they want to make an effort to get out and meet the people of the city, and they don't go looking for trouble. Sometimes trouble just finds them, but it's just something I think people have got to take into consideration when you're signing players who at any age, because it's one of the big things with Rooney. Rooney was 30 plus, wasn't he, when we brought him back, and he wasn't here 5 minutes before he made some bad decisions. And players who make bad decisions, who have a history of making bad decisions, most of them don't ever clean up their act.
Yeah, precisely. But in Dele Alli's case, do you think it just takes the right manager? Because obviously, I think all of his best form was seen under Pochettino. I think Lampard could maybe do something along those lines, because it seems as though none of the Spurs managers since have got out of him what Pochettino did.
Yeah, I mean, as Paul said before, that's a bit of a worry in terms of, he's had Mourinho, who, made Harry Kane absolutely explode for the period he was there for, certainly the first few months, and Son's been really good under all these managers, and as I mentioned, Kane, players like Lloris have really picked up under Conte, so the fact that those other managers haven't quite been able to do it with Dele Alli is a bit of a worry. Obviously, Nuno as well played him originally, and then he ended up being bombed out in the end as well, so it is interesting. I'm not entirely sure what Frank Lampard's sort of approach is, but I'd imagine with the amount of young players he's worked with already, you'd think he is a bit more sort of arm around the shoulder. And he's obviously brought a big coaching staff with him as well. Whether some of them have worked at Dele Alli in the past, or I can see someone in Dele Alli, I'm not too sure. So I said it's all going to come down to how much he wants in, and I think the England squad, keep going back to that, is going to be the big thing for him, whether he wants to really get into that, because the likes of Sancho and Grealish and all these other attacking options who maybe you've been a bit underwhelming this season, there's a big opportunity for him to potentially get back into that. He's a good age still, so if he can really get his head down, and if Lampard thinks he can get a tune out of him, then that does really excite me, because I think if we were to say we're getting a midfielder who's capable of getting, I think he scored 18 goals in 16-17, for example, from midfield. I think he got 10 in another and 12 in another as well. So he's a goal scorer in midfield. If we can get that sort of form out of him, then that would also be really exciting for all of us. But it's a risk in terms of, he's going to be on a big contract, and what he's going to keep going up, as we mentioned, in terms of, how much he plays. So it's a risk, and whether it's worth taking will sort of show in due course.
Well, obviously, I think all of these sort of transfers, deadlines, A1s in particular, are a risk. Obviously, you've discussed a lot of the risks and rewards there of Dele Alli, but what about Donny van de Beek?
Van de Beek's just a big question mark for me, because he's not done anything at United, because he's not had the chance to. He's just not had the game time at United to know whether he's going to hack it in this league or not. So a lot of players who look fantastic in, smaller leagues like Holland's, playing for the bigger clubs that dominate those leagues pretty much every year, and then they make the step up and they just can't cut it at all. They're not used to playing football under pressure. They're not used to being pressed. They're not used to fans kind of getting on the back when they do something wrong, which is what happens here a lot. So Van de Beek seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. Like he's very young. How old is he? Maybe 23, 24?
24, I think he is.
Younger? I know he's 24, yeah. No, he's still considered a young player. Not a young. He's not a kid, but he's still a player who's probably only just coming into his prime. And he's always give off the impression to me that he's wise beyond his years. He's been brought up very well and he speaks very well about himself. And there's never any stories about him kind of going out and doing things he shouldn't, even though he probably have the excuse to do it, considering how appallingly he's been treated by the United ever since he got there. Who could blame the lad if he went out and got drunk one night and got filmed in the city centre? But he seems like all he lives for is football, isn't it? And whether he's playing, whether he's not, he's always going to give it 110% in training. And I think that type of character.
Dele Alli, basically, maybe we're covering both bases.
Well, as I said, maybe that's unfair on Dele Alli. We're just going off perception, aren't we? that's the perception of Dele Alli, that he's a bit of a and obviously I know Mourinho calls him lazy, but Mourinho's been proven wrong lots of times in his assessments of players, hasn't he? But
like cynical Mourinho, isn't he? But yeah, obviously Lampard might be the one to get the best out of him.
Because I think the thing that Lampard,
Erwin's just asked, what's James P's thoughts on Frank?
I'm quite pleased, to be fair. I think I was really against it at the very start when he was linked to the job. But I think the more you can look into it, his numbers at Chelsea were really good, sort of in terms of, he got them back into the Champions League and what have you. But then his underlying numbers, he's right at the top of the league, I think second or third for expected goals, expected points, goals against I think they were fifth in the league, maybe, even though they had obviously Kepa in goal. And even the season when he was sacked, I think they were still second for expected points, or right up second or third for expected goals against. So all that sort of thing excites me. I think the coaches he brought from Chelsea, that's the big thing with me, because he's a young manager, but he's bringing in experience in abundance. Paul Clement is someone who I think's obviously been quite a poor manager at Derby and Swansea, but he's a coach who's been at Real, Bayern, PSG, Chelsea as well, obviously, and bringing a couple of the other lads from Chelsea as well really excites me. So I think it's the coaching staff for me with Lampard that makes you think, yeah, we're really sort of building a good team off the pitch, whereas previously, had the likes, obviously Dunk's been there, and Erwin Koeman and Dennis Lawrence and Graham Jones and all these other people where I've never really been sort of fully convinced. But I think this is a proper team he's assembled, and I think the fact that he's gone away, and I think I read before that he moved on from Jody Morris because he's a bit of a yes man. He wanted to get someone else in who's going to tell him how it is, and I think Reece James has put something on about that. Joe Edwards, who's going to come and be the assistant, and talking about how much he's elevated his game and all that. So Lampard, I'm quite happy with, but I'm really pleased with the staff he's bringing. I think that team we're going to have off the pitch is going to really be exciting. That kind of shows where modern football's going, that we're getting excited by coaches and coaching staff and stuff. But it's similar to kind of what Gerrard did when he went up to Rangers. He assembled a really nice coaching staff behind him, and obviously that bore fruit. So I'm quite excited now, a lot more excited than I was originally.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of backroom team. You can't understate the importance of that, I don't think, because, a good sort of coaching team can improve teams, can take players to another level. And by God, we've got some bang average players who need to go up a level.
No, 100%, yeah. David Moyes, for a long time, had a cracking backroom team, didn't he? I mean, I didn't really think much of that Steve Rounds who he brought in the latter half of his reign, but before that, when he had Alan Irvine with him, I thought they were a perfect combination of good cop, bad cop, weren't they? They got through to players, they got responses out of them. When the team needed a bollocking, they'd kick them up the arse. When they needed someone to kind of put their arm round and make them feel good about themselves, they managed to do that as well. As James just mentioned, we've had some people in the background over the last few years who've come with various managers, and you think, you've literally just got a hands-out job. Where's this fella ever worked, and where's he ever going to work after he's been with Everton? The likes of Dennis Lawrence, the likes of Bauer Morte. Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. What were we doing giving him a job, Bauer Morte? I mean, not personal against them, but what coach? He might have all the badges, but what's his body of work as a coach to make he can just walk straight into a Premier League coaching job at Everton? I mean, there's been others as well. Koeman's backroom staff. Allardyce had Sammy Lee with him. Sammy Lee's got a good record in terms of he's got lots of experience as a coach, but again, it was just, why would he get if he applied for the Everton job, he'd never have got it. If he had just applied on his own with no manager basically getting the job for him, would he have even got anywhere close to getting it? No. It was literally just managers basically sorting out jobs for the friends, which I feel is not the case here at Lampard. He's deliberately picking the people who he is absolutely sure can come in and make a positive difference, and they won't just, as James said, be his yes men. They won't just tell him everything he wants to hear. They won't just basically do all his dirty work for him when it comes to maybe being a bit harsh with the players. They've all got a body of work, like Paul Clement, who, okay, it didn't work for him as a manager, even though I think he was a bit unlucky at Swansea. He did well at Swansea originally, and he's been everywhere, hasn't he, as an assistant with Carlo, and won numerous trophies and helped coach numerous world-class famous sides. who's the other fellow he's bringing with him? The guy from Chelsea, the one who Reece James is crediting with developing him.
Joe Edwards.
He's left today. I saw it on the Chelsea account. Joe Edwards, yeah. Joe Edwards. Isn't Joe Edwards involved with the England's under-21s to some extent?
Yeah, I think he works for Andy Gordon. I think someone tweeted about that. That was either him and that might be Anthony Barry, who I don't think's come. I think it is Joe Edwards.
Yeah, he's been involved with the international setup, and they don't typically just give those jobs away, do they? And it's important to have a bit of continuity there. I mean, Ferguson's going to stay on, but that's confirmed now. It looked like last night he was going to leave and try and get a manager's job somewhere, but he's decided to stay on at Everton after he's been asked to. I mean, that's a different video, whether we think that's a good thing, but you don't always throw out you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater all the time. It is you need to have coaches still there who the players who we know are delivering for us, the likes of Calvert-Lewin, who, if Duncan got forced out the door, then I imagine Calvert-Lewin, who's one of our most important players when he's fully fit and sharp, he wouldn't be happy about that. There was a lot of fat to trim, is what I'm saying, at the coaching staff, and it seems like for once we finally replaced it with real top professionals who've been successful in other places, and they've been successful in other places very recently, and they've got something to prove by coming to Everton. They're not just happy to just rest on the laurels. They're in the 60s. They haven't kind of think, right, this is just a nice retirement for me. I've done everything I want to do in football as a coach or as a manager now. A lot of them are still hungry. They want to come and win more trophies with another club, and we are that other club now.
This is great news as far as we're concerned. A couple of little extra things to touch on. A rumour now, apparently, Fleetwood Town goalkeeper Billy Crellin could well be coming in. He's only 21. Is he just going to go straight into the under 23s? Is he, or?
I mean, I haven't got the sound on. I've got Sky Sports on my TV. That's why I keep glancing up every now and then, and I keep waiting for something to happen, like Everton wise. But other than Vinny O'Connor getting soaked in the rain, which was on 5 minutes ago, it just seems like they're running with the Aubameyang story mostly, and just every now and then they come back to Dele Alli saying Newcastle are not getting Dele Alli. It's like, well, yeah, we knew that this afternoon. So this kid from Fleetwood, where does he play, James?
He's a goalkeeper.
A goalkeeper. We do need some strength in depth in the goalkeeper department, because who have we got on the books? We've got Jordan Pickford, who is who's inconsistent. Begovic looked like a good signing in the summer, but he's not really impressed in the games he has played in. Lonergan, who's I think 50 and not been a first choice anywhere for a good 5 years. I mean, not personal against the fair. I don't want to sound like I'm taking the mickey out of him too much. It was just a little joke that, but Lonergan's never ever going to be anyone who plays a first team game for Everton, surely. And everyone at the club knows that. Jordan Pickford knows Andy Lonergan's never going to put him under pressure, and Begovic knows that Andy Lonergan's never going to get in on the bench over him. But João Virginia's gone to Sporting Lisbon. It doesn't look like he's got any future here, which is a shame, because he looked like he had some ability when we played him last year. And I think beneath those four, I can't really tell you many goalkeepers we've got. I know we've got one or two in the youth, like Harry Tyler, and I think we've got is Nicholas Hansen still here?
Maybe.
Yeah. We've got no players anywhere near who don't look anywhere near levels. Don't look like they're anywhere near ready to come and play a part in the first team. We've basically only got two. We've got Begovic, who's old and hasn't looked impressive, and we've got Pickford, who we know his form can go up and down, and he's one of those players you wouldn't be shocked if we lose him over the next year or two to another team. So we definitely need to start bringing in some younger goalkeepers, so in the next 3 or 4 years we can potentially groom them to be our number one if needs be.
Well, that should be the plan. I'm hoping, when we just discussed obviously how well the backroom staff's been assembled, is there any sort of additions to the youth staff? Obviously, Unsworth's been in charge for a while. I think we could do with freshening that up as well.
Massively, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with Unsworth in terms of his contract, and obviously he's now the head of academy or something. He's got a much bigger role to go along with the 23 setup, but Frank Lampard, I think, has already spoke today about the youth team. Lewis Dobbin was liking tweets the other day about him getting the job. Obviously, Anthony Gordon's come in and been not like a roaring success, but I think because we've been bereft of it for so long, he was the fact that he came in and he did absolutely fine. It was quite a big deal for us and someone new. Obviously, Lewis Warrington's had a lot of praise this week, and as I mentioned, Dobbin as well. Onyango came on against Villa, which I think we kind of sort of forgot about. Branthwaite did really well against Chelsea, and we haven't seen him since. So I think we've had a bit of a taste of it now, and we've been without it for so long in terms of players coming through and doing something. What we saw Thierry Small last summer as well. I think this year's been a big learning curve, and if we can really freshen that up, move on Unsworth, move on Ebrel. I don't know if Franny Jeffers is still kicking about. I seen something about him on Twitter the other day. I thought he'd left, but we can just really freshen that up as well. Yeah, exactly. So I think if we can freshen up that setup, and certainly if we can get the likes of say Dobbin, Warrington, get them some minutes for the end of the season, I think that'd be really exciting. But I'm not entirely sure, as I say, what Unsworth sort of situation is in terms of his contract and his deal and stuff. So
I think we do really need some fresh personnel and some fresh impetus in the way we go about coaching the youth teams. We're not seeing enough of them coming into the first team, and I don't know how much of that is down to the managers we've had just haven't given them a chance, or whether it's the youth coaches aren't doing a good enough job of training them and preparing them for first team level, so they aren't good enough when the manager comes to make those decisions. I'm not sure where the issue lies, but whichever way you look at it, it's not been a good enough pathway to the first team for youth players lately.
Has that transfer ban with the youth academy definitely been lifted now? Because I know we were prevented from buying any young players for a while. How long has it been since that ended and we could actually recruit for the youth academy?
I think it ended last summer. We brought in Okoronkwo from Sunderland, didn't we?
I think you're aware for that. I don't know who he is, but yeah, it's as you're saying, we definitely need some fresh blood in the academy. Not even just on the coaching side. We need to. There's only so much talent knocking about locally, isn't there? You need to go out and do what other clubs are so good at. The likes of Liverpool, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of United, where you just find kids who are maybe 14, 15, 16, who are showing an ability at other academies, and hopefully try and pinch them. And by the time they're 18, 19, they're technically a homegrown player in terms of the Premier League rules. But they're players who have just been at Everton for years and they've got used to a certain way of things being, like it is for the players who just get recruited when they're maybe 10, sort of thing, and they're brought up through the system. And maybe that culture at the club that we've talked about so much that we dislike, that culture's really seeped into their psyche, and they're just happy to be part of the furniture and not really overly bothered if they break through. Just get some local players who, not local, but just get some players from around the country, and hopefully convince them that the Everton Academy is better than the academy that they're already at, and they should come here instead of staying where they were.
I think it's that, and as well, I think there was mentioned a couple of months ago about playing the same way, having the same sort of system, philosophy, just having it running all down the club from the first team, whatever shape they want to play. Generally speaking, whatever the philosophy of the manager is, just get it running through the club so then players can step up a lot easier. I think if the youth team are playing one way and then you get asked to come play for the first team, I think it's going to be a lot harder for them, and as well just sacrificing. I know they haven't done it the last couple of years anyway, but obviously we were winning leagues with the ass up front. Like, I mean, that sort of idea of having these over 8 players as well.
The fact that we weren't already doing that, as what you've just described, having the youth teams play the exact same way as the first team, the fact that we weren't doing that is just farcical, and it tells you everything that's wrong with the academy. It doesn't matter that we're winning under 23 leagues. It is damning, but it doesn't matter that we're winning under 23 leagues when we've got 21 and 22-year-olds in that team. Every other club that knows what it's doing doesn't really have any player over 20 in their under 23 leagues, because the ones who are over 20 are either in the first team already, or they're out on loan somewhere trying to take the step up in development, or put themselves in the shop window and hope that someone at a lower level will buy them and they can make a profit on them at least. That's something that's got to change. That I'm fed up of seeing just players stay here for years upon years. I mean, is Matthew Pennington still in the under 23s?
No, he left now.
He left.
Has he finally gone? Yeah. Yeah. When Oumani Ase was in the under 23s scoring hat-tricks, it was just a damning indictment of what we were like. People were talking about some great thing. It's like it isn't. There shouldn't be, no matter what his ability level is or what his situation is at the club, whether the manager has fell out with him, whether the manager just thinks he needs to get sharp. players over a certain age should not be involved with the under-23s. That's not what they're. It's not what the under-23s is there for. The youth team is there to train players of a certain age, and then when they reach maybe 2021, then a decision has to be made. Are you good enough? Do we believe that you can step up in the near future? And if you can't, well, we'll sort you to move somewhere else, or you can go out on loan and try to convince us that you can. So going forwards, I don't want to see any player over 21 for any reason in the under-23s, even if it's just a punishment because they've been sent away from the first team, like it was with Niasse. Because him going in the under-23s and starting for them is taking up the spot from someone else who needs that game time to develop, or to at least show the coaches at the place whether they're good enough or not. So it's got to stop that. And if that means getting rid of Unsworth or getting rid of someone else, then so be it.
I think there definitely needs to be personnel changes. Not particularly pointing the finger at Unsworth, but I think there's definitely others who you could do with getting rid of and bringing in, more people with a better track record of developing players, I think, because, we haven't, under the current setup, we just haven't seen enough, youth academy players coming through, and the ones who have come from the under-23s and done well players we seem to have bought from other clubs like Brantwaite, and a lot of them, not many have come through the actual academy setup. Makes me wonder if we're doing something wrong.
I think we need someone in charge of the under-23s. Maybe an ex-player who has a lot of technical ability and can actually get on the training pitch and show these players firsthand what it is they need to be doing if they want to get better. I mean, Unsworth, much respect to him, but he was
a bruiser.
Good player. Yeah, he was a bruiser. He was a trier, and that's what a lot of our youth players are, the triers. But they don't have a lot of ability because they haven't been coached by someone who had the ability himself. So Unsworth was a great player for us. He's always going to have a soft spot at Evertonians' hearts, but when he's in the condition he's in, no disrespect again, and even when in his prime, he wasn't exactly a silky defender who put him crosses, was he? His generation, his type of player has died out. There aren't traditional fullbacks anymore. Even centre-backs need to know how to be good on the ball and carry it out into midfield. Unsworth didn't do any of that. Now, that's not to slag him off with, because he didn't have to learn to do any of that. It wasn't necessary when he was playing. But we need someone who is retired a lot more recently and is still in very good physical condition. I think you can get on pitch or get on the training ground with these players and show them exactly what it is they need to be learning, rather than just standing on the side and maybe giving them encouragements. There's a place for that. We need a coach who does that, puts the arm round and maybe gives them a bit of a G up when they need it. But we need someone who's just going to be focusing completely on technical ability, because a lot of the players we've got in the youth team, a lot of them just feel like they haven't got any technical ability at all. They're just triers.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's even if Unsworth's a really good manager at that level, it's just an idea of just freshening it up. Just, you look at managers who replace their backroom staff every 4 or 5 years just to freshen things up. Things can be going well, poorly, and different, whatever it might be. It's just to sort of freshen it up, let everyone sort of know it's a new start, a new beginning. Gives players who are in under 15, under 16s, gives them the sort of idea that things are changing above and there's now going to be more of a chance, because Lampard's not going to come here and not want to utilise the youth team. I know we had great players at Chelsea like Mount, Abraham, James. We didn't have to play Mount. Didn't have to play Abraham. Even James had Aspilicueta already playing fullback. And tomorrow there was still 2 or 3 really good centre-backs at the club when he came in. He gave minutes to Lamptey and Almiron and then Armando Broja, and there were players at Chelsea who he utilised. Billy Gilmore being another one. I know he came from Rangers, but he's not going to want to come here and not utilise the youth team. I'm sure we'll see minutes for Dobbin, for Onyango. I think at the Sims, we hadn't got on loan, but there's potential there as well. Again, I know he came from Man City, but I just think there's got to be this sort of idea that there's going to be a real pathway there for the first team. There was links today that Lewis Warrington could go out on loan to Tranmere, and it's even the loans that we've been doing the last couple of years. I think Anthony Gould went to Preston. That was a little bit unfortunate because their manager got sacked. But some of the loans we've done the last couple of seasons have just been really poor in terms of where we've sent these players. We've gone a little bit better. I think Sims went to Blackpool under Neil Critchley and helped them sort of get promoted, which was really good, and got injured, which was a bit unfortunate. But we need to pick better loans for these players, send to better managers, teams who've got better track records, maybe even managers who are safe in their jobs, so we know that they'll stay in the team, because Gordon stagnated when he went to Preston, obviously, and Neil was sacked. So I think just to freshen it up a little bit, because I say Lampard's going to want to utilise it, and we'll see sort of how much impact he has on that.
You touched on a good point there, James, mate. Just can I ask the both of you, what do you think of Ellis Sims going to Hearts? Because I think that falls under the latter category again of just a poor loan. So even if he goes there and scores some goals, Hearts going to have the money to buy him in the summer and actually make it a good deal in our be able to give us $1 million or $2 million for him, which we could probably get from a championship club if he went to the championship and did well. I just feels like
championship clubs are richer, I think. So
sending them to SBL when he's the age, if he was 17 or 18 or 19,
if it was Rangers or Celtic, I'd get it.
Yeah, but to Hearts, I mean, part of me just feels like, well, what's the end game? Have you got a deal in place with Hearts, and Hearts are going to buy him if he does well and he scores a certain amount of goals, and if so, what's the finances involved in it? It kind of feels like we're just kind of get him out of sight, out of mind. We've just accepted one of the first loan bids that's come in. I mean, I'd have been fine sending him back to Blackpool. Now, maybe they didn't come in for him after his injury, but after his performances for Blackpool last season, helping to get promoted, there was teams somewhere that, other than Hearts, who would have been interested in taking him, who would have been better for both us and for him. Because it just kind of feels like sending players to a mid-team. I mean, Hearts still kind of third or fourth. I know Rangers and Celtic are the top of the table clash in the week. Are Hearts third, are they?
I think they were last time I saw them. They were third. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow Scottish football to be all the time really, but I think people know the point I'm getting at. When you send them to just sending them to Scotland, if it's not Rangers or Celtic, I just don't see any massive point in it, personally.
Yeah, I think that's
unless a player is very, very young, and Sims is 20, 21 now.
Yeah, I think it's that idea that it's not just sending players out on loan to get experience. You've got to weigh up every team in the academy should be good enough, because you get to the 23s at Everton, you've got to have talent, you've got to be good enough. And I think again at Liverpool, they'll have loads of players in their 23s. They think, right, he's not going to play for Liverpool, but we can get 4 or 5 million for him easy. You know, Nat Phillips, I know he wasn't a young player from sort of club through where he was a bit older.
He's gone on loan to Bournemouth today.
That's a good loan. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, they found a good loan for him, a championship club where he's going to be playing, and if he does well, he'll have prove that he's good enough to come there and come back to Liverpool, be a good squad player, or he'll convince a championship club to basically spend a fair bit of money on him. Whereas if Dobbs goes up and does well in Scotland, Heart's going to be able to give us any money that will make it worthwhile for us on our end. Our Rangers or Celtic going to decide to take him and give us a couple of million. I mean,
that's probably the best you can hope for.
It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of thought behind sending them to Hearts, really.
Yeah, just moving back to the transfer window here, guys.
Is it likely?
There's an update. Obviously, Dele Alli's apparently signed his contract according to Fabrizio Romano. But Luka Jovic has had a loan bid rejected, I think.
By us.
Last night. Yeah, I saw that last night.
We had a loan move rejected for Luka Jovic.
I don't know
what's he been doing at Real Madrid.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, he went. I believe he went back to Frankfurt, didn't he, last season? He didn't really do anything at his confidence.
Exactly. Yeah,
on the floor. So I don't think that's a massive.
It just seems like it's been a disaster for him since he went to Real Madrid. I think he scored like maybe 1 or 2 goals before they'd loaned him out back to Frankfurt, and he was in trouble because he went back
to Frankfurt.
And yeah, and I know he definitely got in trouble as well when he went. Is he Serbian? I think
he's Serbian. Yeah.
Yeah, he went back to Serbia during lockdown, didn't he? Without telling his club, and he basically broke the law when he went back there, and that caused a lot of bad headlines for him. And it just seems like since he's gone to Real Madrid, his career just fell off a cliff, because he looked like one of Europe's hottest prospects, didn't he, when he left Frankfurt to go to Real Madrid? But again, it's a classic example of a big move too soon for a young player who's not got their head screwed on properly. And I don't know, would Premier League suit him? Maybe he's a bit of a box striker, isn't he? A poacher, and we've kind of got one of them already in Calvert-Lewin. So as you were saying, James, it wasn't really a position we desperately needed to strengthen in, was it?
And I think as well, you saw when he was at Frankfurt, he was playing with in that front three of Kostic and Sebastian Haller. Obviously, Haller was the first guy who went to West Ham, and he tanked, obviously, and Jovic has done the same, and Kostic has still sort of kept a pretty good sort of return on him. I just think those three were just perfect together, and as soon as all three of them have dissembled and left Frankfurt and left that style of play, obviously the latter two have tanked, and it's taken Haller to go to Ajax for him to succeed again. But I'll get more excited because you were getting linked to some kid from the Castilla side. It was a number 6 who had some good reviews on Twitter last night, but obviously that doesn't appear to be the case. There was rumours that Ancelotti wanted to do something with Everton, and it looks like Jovic was the player who went for. But obviously, if Benzema at his age gets injured, they don't really have anyone up there that I can think of. So I'm not surprised it's been rejected, but again, he'd be on a big contract, a lot of money. Real Madrid want to clear the books as much as they can. So I'm not surprised or too bothered about that one.
Have we been linked with any defenders at all? Centre backs? Because I think that's the position we really do need to strengthen him. Because Yerry Mina's injury prone, Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, I think Everton fans would be happy if we never see them again. Godfrey's not his form's no way near what it was last season. I still like Godfrey. I think he's got a long-term future here.
He's getting something out to left back as well, because we've brought in an inexperienced left back in Mikalenko, who, make of what you will. There's been all kinds of rumours going around about that, which I think is absolute nonsense, to be honest.
I think they're crap. I wouldn't even give them a time of day, mate.
I think that's absolute.
Yeah, it's the stuff that apparently Ferguson told some random guy on a train. Yeah, no, don't even. Anyone watching this, that's complete rubbish. Duncan Ferguson did not slag Mikalenko off to a random fan on a train. It's made up rubbish.
It's silly season at its finest, isn't it?
That just didn't make any sense, because he was going to try and become the manager of Everton, and then he said this. And if he told this fella as well, even if it's in the slimmest chance that it is true, the fella shouldn't have gone and said that on the space, because obviously Duncan wouldn't want everyone to think that he said that as well, and to say he's a championship player, but he's managed him for, no, obviously didn't even play in the squad, but he's trained with him for a couple of weeks. He's played in the Champions League, he's played in the Euros. I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine in the end. I wouldn't get that the time of day from last night.
No, not at all. But yeah, I think definitely we could do with bringing in a centre-back. I think Godfrey's been shunted out on the left to maybe accommodate bedding in Mikalenko as well. We definitely need a centre-back, or even another, like a left-back, I think preferably a centre-back.
Yeah, I've not seen anything today, to be fair. I think Ben Winstanley tweeted saying we had a loan bid rejected for someone who we've been linked with in previous windows, so I'm not too sure that could possibly have been. But what time are we on now? It's about 5 to 10 now. I can't say that.
We've got an hour left. It's not looking likely that anything beyond Dele Alli and Van der Beek today is going to be happening.
I think I was just saying, I'm excited for. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay there. I was just saying, I'm just thinking about whether Jared Branthwaite's going to get much of a chance, because he's someone who does excite me. And I say Keane and Holgate, I'm not bothered by at all. I think Branthwaite, left-footed, tall, strong, quick, good on the ball, or at least decent on the ball anyway. That's someone who I would be excited to see if we can get someone out of him second half of the season.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to see Branthwaite more, because there needs to be more. We just need a fresh face at the back. I think, like I say, I think Keane and Holgate have let the fans down so much over the last couple of years. In intermittent spells at least, that the fans have had enough of seeing them on the team sheet.
They've ran out of chances. It's that simple, and they've run out of chances well before now for me. But Branthwaite started the season basically his 5th choice, didn't he? Centre-back. And for me, he should be at the very least 3rd choice now, if not 2nd. Mina's still going to be 1st choice when he's fit. I'd have Godfrey as a centre-back. I think I know his form's not been great this season, but he did have COVID in the summer. He did start behind, and he has been messed about by managers in terms of what position they put him in. But
I think he has also improved.
It's just we know what we're going to get. Yeah, he has, but Mason Holgate seemingly can only ever play well when he's got Yerry Mina next to him, which is not often given Mina's fitness problems. And Michael Keane is just Michael Keane. He's a deer in the headlights, and it's time Everton stops relying on him, because he's let us down too often, and he's just he hasn't got what it takes. It's that simple. Nothing personal against the fella, but Everton's too big a club for him. The pressure's too much for him to bear. We need to just sort him out to move as soon as we can and wish him well, because it's not worked out here, and it's never going to work out here. And people are just not. He's let us down too much, where people are not even just happy to let him be a squad player who comes in every now and again, like we would be with maybe Godfrey, or we would be with other players in various positions. You can have a player who you know is not good enough, but you think, yeah, well, they can come in and do a job for us in half a dozen games a season, and they probably won't let us down too much. But with Keane, it's just been so diabolical at times that fans just want to really see him not in the Everton colours anymore. At least I do.
I think this season's been so embarrassing from him that, and yes, I know we've had Benitez and other managers, like, you know, it's not been great, but I still think he's let us down quite badly this season.
People say, "Oh, it's his confidence. It's his confidence." And for me, that excuse doesn't wash anymore. How old is he? 28, 29?
He's 29 this year.
He's 29, and someone had a really good line when he said he plays football. He gives off the body language of a 13-year-old at the school disco. It's like I know some players are not naturally outgoing, are not extroverted, and they're very easily they can let their heads go down. But when you're 29 years of age, mate, you should have some level of inner confidence in yourself. You shouldn't be just falling to bits because you make one mistake in a game. There's players who've got nowhere near the ability of Michael Keane who can hold it together better than he does in a pressure situation. So if you're 29 years of age and you're still so fragile mentally, then I just don't think you belong in a Premier League team, or especially not a Premier League team like Everton, where there's some demands placed on you. So now the sooner Michael Keane just leaves Everton and starts afresh somewhere else, the better for everyone, really.
Sadly, it doesn't look like it will be this window. We've only got an hour left, and according to Alan Myers, at least, it looks like there's not going to be any outgoings now. So that will probably be a job for the summer if Lampard really wants to assess his options. I think that's a sensible move. Something inspirational in the group chat here. Dele Alli confirmed.
I've just checked that. Yeah, I've just checked. No,
have you seen him holding the kit up and the scar?
You what?
I say
what number he'll get? Because we've seen Van der Beek's got number 30, I think. Van der Beek's got number 30. I wonder what number Dele's going to get. He was number 20 at Tottenham, was he? He's number 23. I mean, is the number 20, is it free for someone to take, not the number 23 itself? Coleman's got
I think.
I can't even think, to be honest with you. I was thinking,
will it be free in the summer then?
Well, obviously, Van
take
der
it off
Beek was
then.
34, wasn't he, at United because of that? The Ajax lad who had to retire. But obviously, El Ghazi came in and took 34, didn't he? So I was interested to see he went to 30, but yeah, I'm not sure, to be fair.
Oh, no, it's
30.
20. Cenk Tosun's wearing 28.
Yeah, Van der Beek had number 34 at United for the lad who who collapsed and was in a coma for a while, and thankfully he's recovered. There was that, but there was also the fact that Rangers won their 34th league title with him, didn't they? That was the last title. That was the number of titles they'd won in that last season when Van der Beek left. So he's gone to number 30 now. I was reading it earlier on tonight because that was the number he started off with at Ajax, and he said he saw it was available and he thought, yeah, this is a fresh start. I had good times playing with the number 30 at Ajax, so it's a bit of a superstition that he's got, that he likes the number 30. So hopefully it works out and we see the Donny van der Beek we saw at Ajax. But yeah, I mean, I'm always interested in seeing what numbers new players get. I know some people aren't bothered, but I just love to see, because I think it says a lot about their personality, what number they want to take. If it's some random ass number like number 5 for the striker, like that too, I couldn't stand that. By the way, I mean,
I like that one where Yakubu rejected 9 instead of 122 because I want to score 22 goals.
Yeah, some players have got emotional reasons for wanting certain numbers, haven't they? But when certain players take any number that's available, the first number that's thrown at them, probably, then do you know what I mean? I just, maybe it's just me, because I know if I was a player and I went into a new club, there's a few numbers that I'd definitely be on the lookout for, thinking if that's available, I'd have that. So I'm hoping to see Dele Alli gets a really good number rather than just something crappy.
There's one for you, Paul. What number did you wear if you were offered anything?
Offered anything?
Any number.
It depends on what position you play. I mean, I haven't played for years. I only played with my mate. I didn't play at any sort of level. It was always just 5-a-side, but I was always typically, if it wasn't shunted out onto the full-back position just to defend, or play in midfield, like pass around a little bit, I've always liked the number number 7. I mean, not that I would wear number 7. There's no chance I could be a number 7 footballer, but I like number 7 because it's always got to be a player, I think, who's got big personality. You can't be a shrinking violet and take the number 7 at the likes of Liverpool or the likes of United or the likes of Barcelona, just these clubs where those numbers have massive history. Do you know what I mean? At Everton, the number 9, we've always had the number 9's always been famous at Everton, hasn't it? So I like players who kind of puff the chest out a little bit and go, I know there's pressure that comes with having that number, but I want it. And that's something that it tells you a lot about Calvert-Lewin. He had the number 29. And this was before he scored many goals for us. It was back when everyone just considered him a striker who never actually scored that many.
Yeah,
but he said,
he took the 9s, didn't he?
First? He did. And fair play to the lad. He backed himself in that situation with, no, I want the number 9. I believe I can be that goal scorer for Everton that everyone wants me to be, but people probably think I'm not capable of being. And he took all the pressure, and it ended up working out brilliantly. He's a brilliant Everton number 9, isn't he? And I don't get numbers on the back of my shirts, names. It's a kid's thing, that for me. But if I did get a shirt and name on the back of my shirt for next season, if he was still here, I'd get Calvert-Lewin number 9. So I'm hoping Dele Alli picks a number that's either got significance to him or it's got significance to the club, and that he's able to puff his chest out and give his best because of it.
Yeah, I think it's good for. I think, like you say, like you compare it to the likes of, like you say, Michael Keane sort of, and that sort of mentality. I think there's
like I'm just want to keep my head down and hope nothing goes wrong, which I don't like that in players. So
yeah, it's that sort of. I don't really like cowards, to be honest, and he stinks of cowardice, I think.
Maybe cowards is too strong a word for people, but it's just mental weakness, isn't it? They're not cut out for high pressure situations like being a footballer for a top Premier League team, or it's a big club, not the way a top Premier League team, but a club that wants to be a top Premier League team and considers itself historically a top flight, a strong top flight team. So yeah, Van der Beek took number 30. I can't think of any memorable number 30s for Everton. I think Mo Besic had it last, didn't he? And before that, I couldn't even tell you. But
Holgate had it.
Holgate had it at one point early on, didn't he? And I don't think anyone had it during the Moyes era, did they, or the Martinez era? So
John wasn't wore it for a couple of seasons, but he was back up to Howard.
Yeah, John Woody only played one senior game for us, didn't he, before moving on? So yeah, if Dele Alli comes in, I'd like to see him take a number. I mean, there's a few that are. What numbers are available? Is 40? Someone got number 14?
Number 20 is available.
I think. Yeah, but is 10 available though? I don't know what's going on with, because obviously Sigurdsson was 10, wasn't he? We haven't got a 10, have we now?
Yeah, 10's available. Yeah, definitely. If Dele Alli came in and said, I want the number 10 shirt, I think that would say a lot about how he's viewing this move. That he's taking it 100% seriously and he wants to really get fans to sit up and take notice of him and know that he's here to basically get his career back on track. If he just takes a crappy number like something in the late 20s or the 30s, then maybe I'm just playing amateur psychologist, but I'd read into that as in this fella's just turned up and he's been happy to give the first number.
Every charmed life said numbers are seriously not this relevant. Toffee Blues, good question here, guys. Any players?
It depends on the relevance because I just mentioned it. Calvert-Lewin.
Is there any players that Everton have not signed or missed out on this window that you'd have wanted? I think the big one that looks like it's not going to be a goer is Idrissa Gana Gueye.
Yeah. I mean, was there ever really anything to that, or was that just that David Maddock fella, that copite fanzine writer who just threw that out there and it stuck a little bit? Because I've not seen anyone else link us with Gueye.
Yeah, man, that's the thing I said to you as well, James. I'm pretty sure he's played the 4th most minutes at PSG this season.
Yeah,
so
I don't think there was anything in that. I think that was just David Maddock trying to get a few clicks that, and we know I think he's a bit of an idiot, him. Stuff he writes about Everton and Liverpool. You can tell that he thinks Everton are a little crappy club and Liverpool are God's gift to the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that in the past, to be fair, so I can see where you're getting that from. I think for me, it was more just wishful thinking rather than I didn't even see that article. I've seen a few people bandying it around, like you mentioned, they'd like him. But I think I would like a player of that ilk, though, is probably what I'm getting at there.
How old's Gueye now? He's
32, I think. He's getting up.
How old is Gueye now? Is he 32, 33? Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's not in his 20s anymore, but he's probably. I mean, I haven't watched him much for PSG, but if you're saying he's playing the fourth most minutes, then he doesn't look like he surely can't be a player who's over the hill and finished. Otherwise, he'd be nowhere near PSG's first team. So you don't know. I mean, a short-term deal for Gay now or in the summer, I think would make a lot of sense. But we can't be signing just a Gay back if we ever do, and giving him maybe 3 or 4 year deals like we've done in the past with Gareth Barry. Because Gay was a great player, but not everyone can be Gareth Barry with just evergreen.
Yeah, I think we need to that'll be in the summer. The next one we need to find is the next sort of machine in the middle who can really sort of yeah, exactly, the number 6. Whether that kid's in the academy, someone like Lewis Warrington or not, I'm not sure, but that's what I think the next sort of thing we have to look for in the summer. I've got to drop off now, though, lads. So I'll see what happens with the rest of it.
No problem.
Thanks for joining us, James. See you soon, mate.
No worries, I'll see you later.
Just going on to that, James. There's one player who I'm maybe not surprised he hasn't gone anywhere, but a bit disappointed he hasn't, was Gabaman, because he was brought in to be the number 6, and it's just been an unmitigated disaster, hasn't it? And it's been reported for weeks now that the club are willing to let him go if we get a half-decent loan deal, but it looks like we've had no one come in, or it doesn't seem like anyone's come in and offered us a deal for him that was worth having. So what's going to happen with Gabaman now? Do you think Gabaman's going to get any significant minutes before the season finishes, or do you think he's just going to sit on the bench or in the reserves and then God knows in the summer?
I have seen like a couple of rumours here on Twitter that literally exactly what people might have feared, that there was rumours about him being offered out on loan, but no one wants to pay the wages.
Yeah, he's not on. He can't be on cheap wages, can he? I don't think he's one of the highest earners in the squad or anything, but he can't be on pittance. So, and it's his injury records against him. Even if his wages were next to nothing, I don't blame clubs for looking at him and thinking he could just be. We'd be wasting our time going and getting him, especially teams in the Premier League, because the only teams that you think would probably want him are teams that are going to be down there fighting relegation like we are, and they need when you're one of those clubs and you're bringing players in January, you need to know you can absolutely rely on those players to put a shift in for you, and you're going to get every little bit of talent you can. And a player who's had the chronic problems like him, if I was Newcastle or I was Burnley or I was Watford, teams that really need to strengthen if they're going to have any chance of staying up, I needed a number 6 midfielder. Gabaman, even if he was available, wouldn't be my choice. I'd look at him and I'd think, right, he did well in Germany 3 or 4 years ago, but how do I know that he's not just going to break down in the first or second training session if we get a loan deal for him? And then it just leaves me in the crap, doesn't it? And leaves the club in the crap. So with Gaban's on now, probably for no money at all. If anything, he'll go on loan and we'll just have to subsidise his wages. It just seems like he's in the same boat as that Sandro Reyes now, where we just want to get rid of him any way we can and just save whatever money we can. It just feels like no club's going to give us any money at all because of his injury record.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just don't think we have. I think obviously we've got Alan, but there's no one else who's really a proper like midfield destroyer. And
no, not really. I mean, Tokore's been used in that role a bit, hasn't he? But it's not. No, he played like that when he first came to Watford, to the Premier League. That's what the role Watford used him in. But before long, they would actually push him further forwards, weren't they? And because that's what his strengths. That's what his strengths were. And when Ancelotti bought him, Ancelotti used him as the destroyer in midfield, probably because he didn't really have many other options. And Alan is a player I like. I've said that, but he's got his limitations because of his age and his build and his speed. He's very slow. He's not the strongest on the ball because of his size, and he can't really play with the ball much at his feet when he's under pressure. But one thing I'd like about Alan is he's a good tackler and he's a leader on the pitch. He's a talker. He's a galvanizer. But Alan's just not going to be our number 6 we can hang our hat on for the next 3 or 4 years at least, and that's what we need, isn't it? So that's got to be Frank's first job in the summer, I think, in terms of incomings. Get us a centre-back and get us a number 6.
Definitely. I think, to be honest, as really as have liked us to have brought a number 6 in on loan today.
I would have, but maybe the option, maybe just there's no one out there who's available who the club think they can get.
I think it was one of them. I think obviously we're still in the midst of a relegation battle. I think for me, getting a proper number 6 grafted in would have convinced me that we'd be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you've got to be happy with the business we've done. Vinny O'Connor's back on the screen, and looks like he's absolutely freezing his little nuts off outside Finch Farm in the rain and the cold. But I don't know what he's saying, but it's probably just something about Dele Alli because it's on the bottom. Dele Alli close to signing for Everton. But if we'd have got a centre-back or a number 6 on loan and it was someone you were really sure is going to come in and do well, then I wouldn't be worrying at all about relegation. But the fact that there's still big holes in the playing squad makes you think that they're still going to be very nervy over the next few months, isn't it? So,
yeah, like I say, I think there's certain players. I think if we'd have brought them in, like I say, a big midfield bruiser, a number 6, to even just some cover in case Alan gets injured, just to make sure we've got that safety net. I think that would have been enough for me to be.
Maybe that's where.
Comfortable.
I mean, we've just been saying now it's not his position, but maybe that's where Frank intends on using Toure, at least in the short term, if he's bringing in the likes of Van der Beek and he's bringing in the likes of Dele Alli, because Frank at Chelsea and Derby played a 4-3-3, didn't he? Now, unless he's going to try a different formation here, then you'd look at a 4-3-3 with Everton and you'd think, well, if we're going to play Van der Beek and we're going to play Dele Alli, where's Toure getting in that team? It would only be as a number 6, wouldn't it?
Well, exactly. But also, Toure isn't getting in that team because he's injured at the moment, so we need this cover.
That's true. Yeah, that slipped me mind that Toure was going to be out for a couple of weeks, but long term, though, you got to. I know it's hard to do because of the situation we're in, the fact that we're so nervous about this potential relegation battle, but Frank's been made as a long-term appointment, and Frank's got to look at it with a long-term plan in mind, hasn't he? If it was just a firefighting job, we probably wouldn't have even picked Frank. We've gone for Lampard because we want to start planning for next season and the season after that right now. So he's probably got to be thinking about Toure and where he's going to use him long term, and not just think about what we're going to do over the next few weeks and months. Just start relegation. We've got to think, right, what's our ideal first team going to be for next season? Look to move out. Which players are we going to give new deals to? Which players have got a little bit of use left in them, but if we got the right offer, we'd be willing to let them go. That's all stuff that Frank and whoever's the director of footballs and going to end up being whoever's doing the business deals tonight. That's all stuff that's got to be on their mind, you'd think.
Yeah, obviously, also it's worth bearing in mind, maybe Toure does have a future in a deeper role, given that he is 30 next season. Maybe a certain role might be something better for him later down the line.
Maybe. I mean, hopefully he can, because I think he's better as the attacking number 8, not a number 10 per se, but just a player who spends most of the game in the opposition half and looking to link up with the forward players and arriving late into the box. Now, if Van der Beek's going to be that player, now Van der Beek we could try Van der Beek and he could not work at all. And it's before long, we're putting Toure back in that role as soon as he's fit. But if everything plays out the way we want it to play out, then it's going to be Van der Beek doing that. And then Toure will have to find another role for himself, unless they can maybe turn Van der Beek into something, maybe a bit of a sitter who just sprays the ball around like a Sergio Busquets. But that just sounds a bit unlikely, doesn't it?
Style, but
no, it's not. But as we're saying, it's not really Toure's style either to just sit there destroying, is it? He has done it on occasion when he was asked to, like under Ancelotti and when he first got to Watford. But I don't know. It's just they're all jigsaw pieces, aren't they? And it's up to Frank to put all the jigsaw together and make it look pretty.
Yeah, indeed. I think a few updates here. Lenny Barrett has an early announcement, maybe late according to Matt Law. It always is late on deadline day, isn't it?
Probably because Dele Alli's in London, probably packing his flat up and saying his goodbyes to his friends and things like that. He's not going to be. He's not going to be on Merseyside tonight. I don't think anyone said he is. There's been no photos of him anywhere leaking out. He's not at Finch Farm. He'll be doing his medical down in London somewhere, and he'll be coming up either tomorrow or the day or later on this week. So it'll go late in the sense that the club won't officially announce it till late because they'll want to make sure that the medical results are all back, that the contract's signed, that all the money situation in terms of what we're going to be paying them now, what we're going to be paying them later, what we could potentially pay them if Dele Alli does as well as we're all hoping he's going to do. Until all that stuff's absolutely 100% decided and nailed on, there's no reason for the club to rush this. So it will get announced, but it will get announced probably not long after 11 or probably just before 11. It's all done. The only way this doesn't happen now is if Dele Alli just falls down the stairs or something in his house and breaks his ankle between now and 11 o'clock.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Do you remember Richard Wright in his loft?
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember that Offo, I think he was called, the Belgian kid who the fax machine broke and we couldn't get him registered on time. It's only Everton, isn't it?
Oh, vintage. I think
it'll get done. There's no need to worry. Richard Wright falling out of his lot. There's been other mad injuries. Was it Xabi Alonso who got injured?
Richard Wright getting injured, falling on the sign in the goal, saying "Don't train in this goal" is one of my favourite ones.
There's that as well. Yeah, I mean, I've never really laughed at that because that was at a cup game at Chelsea, and I really wanted to win that game. And I remember watching it on TV, and we had to play Ian Turner in goal because of what Wright had done, and we basically got spanked. So if we'd have ended up winning that game, then yeah, I could have looked back and laughed at it. But for me, it's just a really crap memory.
We lost 4-1 that night. I reckon it would be the loss of our 6-1 if it was Richard Wright, though.
We were Richard Wright. He came into the club with a lot of promise. He'd come through at Arsenal, hadn't he? And he was a lot like that Emi Martinez who went to Villa. You saw that he was ready to be a number one somewhere, but he couldn't displace Seaman, who was the club legend. If Seaman wasn't who he was, then I think a lot of other clubs would have dropped Seaman because of his age and put the younger goalie in there because he was ready. But obviously, because it's a club legend, and I think Seaman might have been the captain or the vice captain at the time, they're not going to drop him until they absolutely had to, till it was untenable in being in goal. So we got Richard Wright, and it was considered a bit of a coup at the time. I think he had an England cap as well. So it was like, yeah, we've got a goalkeeper for the long-term future here. He's come through at a big club like Arsenal. Arsenal are only selling him because he doesn't want to sit on the bench anymore. They would have been happy to keep him if he was happy to be number two, but he was just so injury prone, wasn't he, that we never really got much use out of him at all. I think he got injured to start that season, and we had to play Steve Simonson in goal. Then Steve Simonson got injured, and I think we had to play someone else. I don't think it was Ian Turner. Yeah, someone else. Yeah, this was in the 03-04 season, the first year I started going.
We bought Martin on the deadline day.
We got Martin on the deadline day just to be the backup because Wright had some injury problems in the first few months of the season, and we thought, right, well, if this carries on, we need to have a better option than Steve Simonson to basically to come into the team. And Nigel Martin was up there in age, but was still considered a solid, reliable number two or a number one, like Asmir Begovic. He was very similar to Asmir Begovic, a player who was. We thought
Begovic as a keeper.
Oh yeah, he was 100%. Begovic couldn't wash Nigel Martin's shorts after the game, but it was a signing that was considered very similar to what the Begovic one was. It was just a goalie who everyone knew was a bit of a steady Eddie. Okay, he wasn't good enough to be playing in any title-winning teams, but he was a keeper who would get in a lot of teams further down the table, or maybe in some top championship teams, and still was a top professional who could come in and train every day and set a good example for the younger players, and he'd provide some proper competition to the younger goalkeeper in front of him in Richard Wright. But Wright had started the season with injuries, and obviously we realised that Steve Simonson wasn't adequate as a number two, and Wright just kept getting injured and kept getting injured and kept getting injured. And Nigel Martin, when he came in, would play out of his skin in most games. He was the player of the season in 2003-04. Nigel Martin is the biggest reason we didn't go down that season. Without him, we very likely would have went down. I believe we would have. Because I remember he put in this unreal performance at Anfield, especially, where he got us a
belt to save from Gerrard.
Yeah, he got us a 0-0, and that was as good as a win at the time because we were right down there, and Liverpool were still in a top four team. This was Houlier's last season. Liverpool was still firmly in the top four, and we were right down the bottom half of the table. So getting the 0-0 against Liverpool with now basically under pressure the entire game, and Martin had probably the best game of his career. It was just amazing, and he ended up doing so well that he ended up getting the number one spot for himself, and ended up being our number one for 2-3 more years. He just had to retire in the end because injuries got to him. But Nigel Martin's one of those players where you think, if only we'd have got him 5-6 years earlier, he could have been our number one for years, and we could have achieved something.
On the note of like transfer deadlines and stuff, do you remember? I think Peter Johnson like left him waiting in a service station or something, or left him waiting.
Yeah, I've heard that story. Yeah,
or something.
Yeah, I've heard that. We could have had Nigel Martin a lot earlier than what we did, and that's sickening to think that, because we had some crap goalies in the late 90s, early 2000s, the likes of Paul Gerrard, the likes of Richard Wright. That's a classic one. Yeah, he was no good either. We never replaced Southall until we got Nigel Martin. We had about a 6-7 year spell where we just had goalkeepers who just couldn't cut it. Not just for Everton, but probably wouldn't cut it at a lot of other Premier League teams. And until we got Nigel Martin, that was a big problem in the side that we just weren't able to ever get addressed. But no, I love Nigel Martin. I won't hear a word against him. He's one of my favourite Everton players ever, because he's my generation, early 2000s. One of my first ever kits was Nigel Martin's Sky Blue second kit in the 03-04 season. I just loved him to bits, and I'd love to interview him on here one day if he's willing to do it.
Yeah, shout out to Nigel Martin if you're tuning into the stream. You've got a little interview request there.
It says a lot as well. David Moyes has said on the record more than once that Nigel Martin is probably pound for pound the best signing he's ever made. And you think of some absolutely great signings that David Moyes has made over the years, not just when he was Everton manager, now that he's at West Ham as well. He still says it to this day. If there's one signing that he made that he's most glad he made, it was Nigel Martin at Everton, because he kept us up that year. And if we'd have gone down that year, Moyes probably would have lost the Everton job.
Yeah, true, yeah. It's a good show. All this rubbish about, where's people starting to take the mickey out of us saying we've paid 40 million for Dele Alli?
Oh, it's crap that. We're not paying 40 million for Dele Alli.
We're paying,
I believe,
it's 10 million.
There's a lot of it
after 20 appearances, and then I think it rises over time depending on goals and appearances.
Yeah, the only way we're paying anything close to 40 million for Dele Alli, even after all his clauses and all that are taken into account, is if we win the Premier League, we win the FA Cup, we win the League Cup, we win the Grand National, get in the Champions League, we win the Grand National, we win a raffle. We're not paying anything close. That's just Sky rubbish. That those two idiots who are on there are peddling. What are they called? Kevir, somebody, and
the guy Colin Darmesh.
Yeah, just two shysters. They're only on there to basically. It's been well established that they just repeat absolute rubbish just to get the people on the Sky betting app. They're absolute rubbish. I know Alan Myers has tweeted it, and God bless Alan, but Alan's an employee of Sky, and he's going to get told to tweet whatever. I don't think Alan deliberately goes out of his way to mislead people. I think Alan just believes the people he works for, which is Sky. He's loyal to Sky, and if someone at Sky tells him that this is what's going on, he takes them at face value, but no one else has got any reason to believe Sky. If Fabrizio Romano said it's nothing close to that, Matt Law, who's for the Telegraph, who's got the inside scoop on all the big London clubs, says that the deal's not anything like that. So I'm not going to believe the likes of those two idiots on Sky Sports News or over the likes of two proper in-the-know journalists who've got a fantastic track record.
Yeah, I think Ornstein's mentioned it as well, and obviously he's clued up in London as well.
Yeah, he's with the BBC, isn't he? He doesn't normally just pull things out of his backside. Whenever he says something, then there's usually some validity to it. Was he the one who said that Newcastle tried to hijack the deal late in the day? I don't think that was ever realistic. Maybe Newcastle put an inquiry in.
Who said they were hijacking the deal?
I don't know who started it, but I did see David Ornstein tweeted it, that Newcastle had interest in Dele Alli this earlier on today, and that they were trying to see if there was any way they could get Dele Alli to change his mind about coming here and going there instead. But there probably won't have been much of that either. That will have just been a phone call that got made, because they were told earlier on today, apparently Newcastle, that there was no chance they were getting Jesse Lingard, and they're probably just running around frantically trying to think of another alternative to him. And they've probably been aired through agents and everyone like that Dele Alli's getting offered around, and they've gone, okay, just get whoever on the phone, Dele Alli's agent or someone at Tottenham on the phone, and ask them what the situation is with Dele Alli. Like, would you be willing to do business with him? What would we need to offer you? Would the player have any interest? And they've probably just been told a flat no down the phone. No, we've got a deal all arranged with Everton. The player wants to go to Everton. It's too late now. And that'll be all it was. It wasn't been a case of where people are pitching to Dele Alli and he's oohing and ahhing thinking, shall I go to Everton or shall I go to Newcastle? Or I can't make up my mind. But no, Dele Alli was never going to Newcastle. It's probably just been a phone call that got made earlier today when Newcastle got told they weren't getting Lingard, and they probably just got a straight no down the phone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot much going on now beyond Dele Alli getting done.
Well,
looks like it's going to be done.
I'm looking at Sky Sports now, and it's just Clint Morrison on there, who is got the brain of an ostrich, hasn't he? I don't know what he's talking about, but who else? The big story of the day has been Aubameyang going to Barca, which I didn't see, to be honest. I know things have gone really bad for him at Arsenal, but I thought he'd probably rock up somewhere in the Middle East like James Rodriguez did. That looked on, didn't it? But Barca need another striker because Aguero's had to retire, and they've probably got some spare wages that they can use on someone because of that. And they've decided they're going to go and get Aubameyang, and maybe he can give them 6 to 12 months of good form, and they can get a trophy or two out of it because they need to get back in the Champions League. And if Aubameyang can go there and maybe get them 10 goals between now and the summer, then it might be enough to get them over the line in the top 4 in La Liga. So he's done very well getting that move to Barca, considering how much he's made a bollocks of his Arsenal career. So fair play to Aubameyang and his agents. But it did look a bit odd of Wenger at one point, didn't it? Because they were reporting that he was turned up in Barcelona and there was no agreement at all that's been made between the clubs. So he looked a bit silly at one point, but it just seems like 1 or 2 people have tried to change the goalposts at the last minute to get a better deal, and it's been resolved after a phone call. So just mentioning other business that's been done today, mate. Has there been any deals that other clubs have done that's really surprised you? Because there's been some surprising deals for me, like Ramsey going to Rangers. I didn't expect that. And apparently Ndombele from Tottenham going back to Lyon. Some strange business deals for me.
Yeah, and Ndombele back to Lyon. I think Ramsey to Rangers, I'm just so glad that it's not Ramsey to Everton, to be honest, because that was touted regularly over the past 3 windows.
It's just a bit... It's probably the biggest signing to ever go to SPL since Paul Gascoigne went to Rangers in the 90s, because Darren Ramsey's still absolutely good enough to be playing for a top 8 Premier League team. It's just, again, his wages were the problem, but Rangers surely aren't paying anything close to his full wages. I know Juventus were desperate to get shot of him, but surely he had better options on the table than Rangers. If other clubs were offered the terms that Rangers got offered, it's just, why would he go there of all places? It's just like Paul Gascoigne, he just really fancied going to play in a league where there's a lot of passion involved. It's a big club, Rangers, but obviously he didn't want to. How do I say this? Because I don't want to knock Paul Gascoigne because I like him. Because I've heard him talk about when he decided to go to Rangers. He went because he wanted to play for Walter Smith, not necessarily because he didn't want to come back to the Premier League and he wanted to go to Scotland for any particular reason. He just wanted to play under Walter Smith because he knew him. But it's just bizarre. Like, what would you look at Rangers and think that if you're Aaron Ramsey, why would you look at Rangers and think, yeah, I'm definitely going to go there over the likes of, I don't know, Everton, or over the likes of Wolves, or over the likes of
even Newcastle, or like, you know,
Newcastle or Leicester. Yeah, because I'm
Newcastle, sure if you wanted the money, you could have gone to Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm sure that whatever deal Rangers have worked out with Juventus, other teams in the Premier League could have got the same deal, because there's no way Rangers are covering anywhere. They won't even be covering 30% of his wages, because they just haven't got the financials, have they? So if Juventus were willing to loan him out and pay the bulk of his wages, surely he had more offers on the table than just some SPL team.
Oh, absolutely. I think it is a real coup for Rangers that, like, obviously beyond our deals in the Premier League, I think there's been some good business done, to be honest. I think Kulusevski's gone to Spurs initially on loan. I think it's
great player. I think he's going to smash it in. I hope not. I hope he flops, but I think he's a cracking player in.
Yeah, I really like him. We would link to him to some extent.
Yeah, he can.
He says got sacked, but I don't think it was ever happening.
No, he can get a club in a much better position than Everton, where he's good enough to go into a top 6 club and be in the starting lineup straight away. It's maybe not Liverpool or Man City, but he can walk into the Tottenham team if he's the player that I believe he is.
Obviously, the little roundabout thing, Dean obviously left us and went to Villa. Target's now left Villa and gone to Newcastle on loan.
And Ndombele going back to Lyon as well. I haven't really followed him because I don't watch Tottenham as much as a lot of more people do.
Not as much since Pochettino left, anyway.
I watched them a fair bit under Mourinho, and I watched them in the earlier this season under Nuno, where they had a really mixed. They won the first 3 games, then they lost the next 3 games, and it was clear that Nuno was just a very, very strange fit for them. But since Conte's arrived, I've not really gone out my way to watch much of them. In Ndombele, has he been a player who's just dropped off a cliff, has he, and they just want to get rid of him? Or because apparently there's an option to buy in the deal as well, so it's not like he's just going there to get some minutes between now and the end of the season. Apparently they're just happy to wash their hands of him. But I've always thought, whenever I've seen him, he's a player with a lot of ability. But
very gifted player. I just don't know if he's. I think it might be an attitude issue again.
Maybe it's just he's not Conte's cup of tea. I don't know. But if Conte wasn't the manager there, if Nuno was still there, or someone else had got the job instead of Conte, I think Ndombele definitely wouldn't be going.
Yeah, then finally, there's been a few other little ones. Obviously, Christian Eriksen has gone to Brentford.
That makes you smile, doesn't it? You're hoping he doesn't do too well for them because we want to not finish below Brentford.
We're playing them next, so
yeah, if Eriksen's perfectly all right health wise, then that'll be a great sign for them because he was world class playing for Tottenham, and he was. I know his time at Inter Milan wasn't a roaring success. I know he ended up winning the league with them. He was important in that title winning team, but in the year or 2 before Conte took over as manager, Eriksen was considered a bit of a flop in Italy, really. I'm sure they were touting him around before he picked up his form again. So you don't know how much Eriksen's got left as a player, but if he's perfectly healthy, then it's just good to see him back on the football pitch again, doing what he loves, isn't it? And if he's anything like the player he was when he left Tottenham, then that's an absolutely fantastic addition for Brentford.
Yeah, I think finally, save this one to last across the Premier League because it's the one that impressed me the most. Obviously, Burnley sold Chris Wood and they brought in Wout Weghorst from Wolfsburg.
Yeah, that's another one. I rate him. I really rate him.
Striker, I loved him here.
Yeah, he's a target man, isn't he? He's not the most mobile of strikers, but he'll suit Burnley down to the ground.
6 bruiser he is.
Yeah, just throw balls in the box.
Well.
Yeah, he's good with his feet in from close range, isn't he? But just throw balls in the box, and he'll get his head on most of them, won't he? So if he can come in and get the goals, then Burnley have got a very, very good chance of staying up. I hope not. Again, it's in Everton's interest for him to completely flop, isn't it? But he's another player where you think if he was available, if Wolfsburg were willing to sell him, then if you'd have asked me who he's going to go to, I wouldn't have said Burnley. Burnley, I think, have got a bit of a coup there, unless there's something going on at Wolfsburg where they just desperately needed some money. I'm seeing it now. 12 million. I'm sure in the summer he was...
about 15, I think it is.
12 rising to 15. If you'd have said to me in the summer that he's going to move to the Premier League, I would have said you would for anything under 30. He's got a very good record for Wolfsburg, but there must be something going on there. Maybe he's fell out with a manager, or maybe they just having a cash flow problem. Maybe his deals ran out and they're just selling him now because he won't sign a new one and they just want to get some money. That's all. But
makes you wonder why Newcastle didn't go straight for him rather than going for Wood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've sold him to replace Chris Wood, haven't they? And they've thrown a lot of money at Chris Wood. It must be something Burnley kept under wraps, didn't he? I don't know. That's really stunned me because I think he's going to come in and get some goals for Burnley. I think he's a very, very good striker.
I think he'll do a great job there.
Yeah. 100%. And if Burnley go down, then trust me, he's not staying at Burnley. He'll have a relegation break in his contract, a relegation clause in his contract, because there's no way a player as good as him is going to slog it in the Championship. No chance. If they go down, he's going to go somewhere else and be very good for them as well.
Breaking news: Lewis Warrington. We were discussing earlier on about the youth team with James. Lewis Warrington has gone on loan to Tranmere till the end of the season.
Is he a sitter, Lewis Warrington, in the under-23s?
Looks like a number 6 type player, yeah, like a pivot.
Yeah, and how old is he? Is he like 18?
Pretty young, older. I think. Yeah, let me find out.
Yeah, I don't mind those type of loans when players are going out to League One or going up to Scotland or whatever, when they're 17, 18, 19, and they just need minutes. They haven't played a lot of first-team football at all. They just need to go somewhere and play against men and find out what it's like and beef up a little bit and kind of get a bit of confidence in themselves that they can hang at this level. But when you're 20, 21, 22, and it's time for you to really start kicking on and doing something with your career. If you're a player who's your club has got that your parent club has got any hope of getting any money for you, then what's the point in sending you to League One or to Scotland? Those clubs are not going to be able to give you any substantial fee for them. So
yeah, he's pretty young. He's 19.
19. So if he's going to go there for 6 months, you hope he just get a lot of games under his belt, and then he can come back in the summer and we'll look at him and see maybe he can have another loan after that and do in the Championship at a higher level.
But it's good to see him getting this loan at 19, whereas we've seen players not get these kinds of loans till about 21 in the past, where they've been.
And it's too late by then. They're 21, 22. They're ready to basically sink or swim. And it's, instead of throwing them in the sea and seeing if they sink or swim, you're throwing them in the paddling pool. Because if you can do it at League One level, you're still not really proving a lot when you're 21, 22. It's good if you're going down to League One when you're maybe 18, 19, and you're smashing it. But when you're 21, 22, going on 23, and it's time that you were a first team player at some club somewhere, and you go into League One, then that just suggests that you haven't got a lot of ability.
Yeah, exactly. I think, for me, I don't even know it's necessarily a lack of ability at times. I think we've just neglected our youth players for too long. I think
they're stagnated, and they've lost some hunger, or
we've let them rot in the under 18s, and I know that's a weird word to use for a youngster, but let them rot in the under 23s until they're about 21, and then only then do we start considering loaning them. And then when we loan them, sometimes it is to the wrong club, like you say.
Yeah, we've had loans in the past, like Luke Garber going to Fulham and Galloway.
Sunderland's have had a few.
Galloway going to some teams. We shouldn't be loaning to those clubs because there's too much going on at those clubs that will end up hurting the player. Managers get sacked mid-season. The new manager comes in and just needs to get results, and then hasn't got the time or the motivation to kind of help this young lad who's not going to have in a few months' time. You've got to be careful. You need to send them to the most stable club you can think of, but a manager of that club who you absolutely believe will keep his word when he says he'll play them. Because I don't blame any manager who comes in mid-season and he's got a lone player on the books, and he just thinks, well, I'm not going to play you because what's the point? Because you're not going to dig me out of this hole. You're going back to wherever you came from in a few months. You're not overly bothered if we go down and I succeed or not. So we just need to get these players loans to solid kind of mid-table sides who are absolutely sure are not going to sack their manager or have any sort of crisis in the middle of the season. That could be that player loses his place.
Yeah, I think one instance of Tranmere makes sense because, like you say, in that sense, Tranmere are doing relatively well. They're pushing for promotion in League Two.
Was it League Two that he's going down to?
Yeah, it's League Two. Tranmere are they're in the top. They're like top two at the moment. Like they're pushing promotion, but they've got a solid manager there. Like you say, I think there is more stability there. 19
going down to League Two, mate. That doesn't sit well with me personally. I think that would suggest that maybe they've looked at Lewis Warrington and they think that he's not going to be able to cut to the Premier League level or anything like that. I don't know many 19-year-olds who Premier League clubs have got faith in who they're happy to just loan to a League Two team, even if they are pushing promotion. It's League Two, mate, in this grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? There's probably people who you work with who could do all right in League Two if they got themselves fit.
Yeah, I think for me
it's just such a low level.
I think for me though, I don't think it's necessarily a indictment of his ability. I think that could well just be, again, our team might just have.
We just can't sort a decent loan out to him, so we've just thrown him and let him go anywhere, basically. Yeah.
But I'd rather us do that for him than keep him in the under 23s. At least he's playing competitively. Yeah,
he is, but again, what's he going to learn in at League Two level other than maybe what it feels like to get kicked a bit? I don't know. 19, I thought it was League One that Tranmere were in. That shows you I don't follow them, but they're down in League Two. Then, unless you were 16 or 17 or something, and you just wanted to get away from the city for a while, if you were a Southern boy who's moved up here, but you want to be closer to home, and you think, oh, right, well, we'll send you back down to a Southern team where you're closer to your parents, and even though it's League Two, at least you'll be a bit happier in yourself and you'll get a bit of confidence, and then you can come back in a few months where hopefully you're a bit more independent and stuff. I don't know. I'm scratching at straws. Yeah, I just can't think of. I can't paint it in any way where I think that loaning a player who's 19 at a Premier League team, going down to League Two isn't any way a good thing. Or it's probably just, for me, either, as you said, the club just can't sort out a better loan for them, so we've had to just make do, or we just don't think the player's necessarily good enough, and we're having to just send them down to League Two because no League One clubs or Championship clubs want to bother with
them. You say that, but it's one of those. It all depends about, like, was this arranged in advance? Was it, or also he's a Birkenhead lad, so is that what he wanted?
Well, if that's what he wanted, okay. But again, what are you proving going down to League Two? Nothing, essentially, is it? If he went down to League Two and he scored 20, if he was a striker and he went down to League Two and he scored 20 goals between now and the end of the season, you'd think, yeah, he's far too good for that league. He needs to step up. Then fair enough, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I was very surprised when you just told me that Tranmere were in League Two. For me, that doesn't bode well. That
Toffee Blues has just responded to that
in terms of what Lewis Poynton's future prospects at Everton. I just think if it's loaning a player down to League Two at that age, it's because we don't believe he's going to do anything for us.
Toffee Blues has come back to that where got to take into consideration it's his first loan into first team. We loaned Benny to Wigan and he hardly got a game. More likely to play games lower down the divisions. I think that's what I was getting at as well.
I don't think Benny got loaned out. Wigan are in the Championship, aren't they? I don't think Benny Beningby didn't get much game time at Wigan because he was crap and couldn't cut it, or he didn't have the confidence. I think he was just, as we were saying before, he was very unlucky. He went to a very unstable club. He was having other issues at the time, and he was playing under numerous managers who maybe wanted something else, and they had no motivation to, kind of play this first team player on loan from Everton. So I don't know, but it's a bit like Lewis Gibson. I remember we loaned Lewis Gibson to Fleetwood in League One when we were getting told Lewis Gibson was pretty much there. He was ready to step up from the youth levels and play a part for Everton's first team. And then we loaned him to League One. I'm thinking, well, if this player is as good as everyone's saying he is, and he could cut it at Premier League level if we had to use him there in the odd game, what's he going to League One for? Do you know what I mean? And not every player has to go to the Championship, but every player's got to be in an environment where you think they can definitely grow. And if they can do well in that environment, then it leads to suggest they could do well in Everton's environment if they come back somewhere like Scotland or somewhere like Germany or somewhere like Holland, or some clubs loan players have affiliates, don't they? And they loan them out to Scandinavian clubs. I think we did that with Fraser Hornby, didn't we?
To be fair, I think one thing I'd like to see us do a little bit more is obviously now I think there's Tim Cahill's meant to be on board now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe see if we can get a few loans out of that Eupen in Belgium, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I know Belgium's no great level, but I'd rather a player went on loan to a team in the Belgian league than went on loan to League Two. Because League Two, what is it? They're just going to get kicked. And even if they get promoted, they're only going to go into League One after that. And we should be getting players who are playing at least mid-table clubs in League One. I wouldn't want a player who's going down to League One and scrapping in a relegation battle.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the point is obviously he's a local lad. He's going to his hometown club, a pretty stable club with a promotion push. He's going to be in a good dressing room by the looks of it with a stable manager. We were mentioning before, we don't like the fact that we've sent players to. I'd rather them go to Tranmere in League Two than go to League One with a team in a bit of chaos. I don't know, like a Ipswich or someone.
Sorry, mate, we're having a one or two connection problems here. I don't know if people can hear me or whether they can hear James, but I look at it like I did with Jarrett Brantwaite. We took Jarrett Brantwaite from Carlisle when they were in League Two, and when we were going to loan him out, we didn't send him back to League Two, did we? We looked at him and went, that's a player who's far above that level. We need to get him in here and see what he can do. Sent him to Blackburn, which is in the Championship. Now, I know he did mix there, but he didn't look like a player who was hopefully out of his depth, which would have been a problem if he had done. So, no, League Two, when you're 18, 19, 20, you should be, and you're going to potentially be a Premier League player or even a Championship player who a Premier League team can sell and get some good money for, you should be past playing at League Two for me. Maybe he is. Maybe he goes there and he smashes it, and we'll come back and we go, "Oh my God, what are we doing sending him to League Two? He's way above that." I hope that's the case. But if he goes down to League Two and he doesn't really he doesn't move the needle at all, then that doesn't bode well for his career as an possible Everton player in the Premier League.
But I think we just got to hope that he goes there, and like I say, he does look like a good player. So I'm thinking, in a stable club with a promotion push and a manager who's unlikely to be sacked, I just think that he'll be able to deliver some very good performances. And, if he really does catch the eye playing at that level, I'm hoping he may well just jump straight up to the Championship the following season.
Maybe. You can hope that, can't you? But you don't want to rush players up the levels too quickly. I think going from the League Two to the Champion would be a big jump, wouldn't it? Because there's a lot of players in the Champ who are good enough to play in the Premier League if their team got promoted. I just don't know. I wish the lad all the best, and I really hope that he comes back in the summer and he's absolutely smashed it at Tranmere and we can sort out something better for him. But I just don't like the idea of lowering any player out to League Two, because mid-season at least, because that just reeks of, oh my God, we just don't want to think about this lad. Just fob him off for a while and put him out of sight, out of mind.
I can see where you're getting at. I just think that it will be nice for him to, get some proper game time that isn't playing in the under-23s, which I think is the worst thing for players. I think if he's as long as he's away from the under-23s, it's going to help him to some extent.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, you've got to think what the long-term idea is for him. And if there was a long-term idea in place for him, then there's not many players who you'd think, who playing in League Two as part of the long-term plan for them, if we've got plans that he's going to be part of the Premier League squad at some point in the next 2-3 years. So I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I hope I am, because I don't want to see any player go out on loan and then they have a miserable time and then all the hopes and ambitions just go up in smoke. So I don't know. But is anything else happening? Because I'm just looking outside Liverpool's training ground now. I don't know whether they're going to sign anybody. They were linked to that Carvalho.
Getting Fabio Carvalho from Fulham.
I don't know much about him. Is he an attacker midfielder?
Yeah, he's like 17.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if they sign him, he's playing in the Championship now, he's 17. If they sign him and then they loan him straight back out to a League Two team, would you expect any Liverpool fan to be annoyed by that? Because I would. I'd be turning around saying, what have we signed this player for? And then who was playing in the Championship, and then we've loaned him out to League Two. What's the point in that? Now, I know every player's situation is different, but I don't know. I mean, I just would have really liked to have seen our youth players, if they're going to get loans out to at least League One level or something equivalent to that. Sending them on loan to League Two, you might as well send them on loan to somewhere like Poland.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other updates.
It seems like we're done. But like Everton are done for today, then it was just Van der Beek and Dele Alli, and maybe they had one or two players who they looked at, but it just wasn't feasible to get them over the line in time. Let's just focus on the rest of the season now. Get us some points. I think Frank Lampard's I've come round to the idea, and I know I was against it a couple of weeks ago when we first did a video discussing it, but I've come round to the idea in the sense that he is an absolute winner who you hope will rub off on other people. He's bringing in some backroom staff who've been there and done it at other clubs, and they'll rub off on people as well. He's got a point to prove, hasn't he? Because he knows he's not going to get a bigger job than Everton unless he does well at Everton, you'd think. Lampard's end game will always be getting back to Chelsea, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, because Chelsea change managers every couple of years anyway, and they've had managers back for more than one spell before. They had what's his name? Gus Hiddink. I know he was an interim both times, but do you think if they sacked the likes of Ancelotti and they've sacked the likes of they had Mourinho back after they sacked him once, they probably would have Ancelotti back at various points if they could have got him after they sacked him originally. They probably would have had the likes of Conte back if Conte was willing to go and put his ego to the side, because they only got rid of Conte because of his off-the-field things. It wasn't because he wasn't performing. So Chelsea are not a club that kind of hold grudges, is what I'm saying, or at least Abramovich doesn't. He'll have people back if he thinks it's going to work out on the pitch. And if Lampard can do something as the Everton manager, then you'd think the likes of Chelsea or other clubs in the Champions League will look at him and think, you know what, he's the answer for us long term. Let's go and get him because he's proven that he's got something about him as a manager, doing what he's done at Everton. So yeah, Lampard's hungry. He's got it all to prove. I think he's a manager who's got a long-term vision rather than just focusing on the short term. He's not a firefighter. He's going to have the name recognition because there's no chance I think we get Van der Beek if Lampard wasn't here. He said, hasn't he? He spoke to Lampard, and then it was because of Lampard he decided that Everton was where he wanted to come, not Crystal Palace. And the fact that Crystal Palace got Patrick Vieira as their manager as well, then that says something, doesn't it? Because a lot of players would have wanted to go play for Patrick Vieira. It's not many players who look at it and think, no, I don't want to play for Patrick Vieira. I want to play for this fella instead. But Lampard's one of those select few.
There's everyone who wants to play for Benitez.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy with Lampard. I'm happy with the backroom staff he's bringing in. I'm happy with these two signings. I think they surely make us stronger than we were at the start of the month. We've got that Nathan Patterson, who's going to be the long-term answer at right back, you'd hope. We've got Michaelenko, who is hopefully going to settle down and prove to be a very competent left back. So it's not all doom and gloom. I'm a lot more confident that Everton are not going to be in trouble this season than I was a month ago. I know it's not totally extinguished all my fears, as we were talking about. If you've got a centre-back or a number 6, then I would have been absolutely confident we weren't going to go down or anything close to it. But we're still going to be looking over our shoulder. But I'm sitting a lot more comfortably than I was not too far long ago when it just seemed like everything was absolute chaos.
Yeah, I mean, it looks as though we've improved the squad regardless, whatever way you look at it. It'll still be a decent window. I just think we could have done with that number 6 or a centre-back.
Maybe we've got a player in mind and we're going to go for him in the summer and we're willing to wait. And because we can't get him now. You'd hope so, because there's a lot of teams that are scouting players around this time of the year and they know, well, it's going to be a tough ask getting them out of their clubs in January. Let's just wait a little bit and we'll go back in the summer where we can maybe get them for a couple of £1 million cheaper or when they've run the contract down a bit more. So I think number 6 is definitely on the Everton board's list of priorities. I don't think we haven't signed one because we weren't really looking hard enough. I think just the right option isn't available right now, so they're happy to just take the time and strengthen up some other areas first to make sure that we're not in trouble. Because we need some more players who are going to score and get assists. And you think Dele Alli and Van der Beek, if they're the players that we're hoping they are going to come in and really up Everton's productivity in the final third. So, which is what we need. We're just not scoring enough goals, are we?
Not at all. Yeah, that's why I'm so jealous of Van Weghorst going to Burnley. I think that's a bit of belter signing.
I do, but he's not going to sit. He's not going to be number 2 behind Calvert-Lewin, is he?
And it's the age as well, I guess.
Yeah, and with Arsenal sniffing around Calvert-Lewin, I don't think Calvert-Lewin would be happy becoming an understudy to Weghorst. So I understand why we haven't gone in for him, even though I am surprised that he's gone to Burnley and not somewhere else. I thought he'd have got a bigger club than that. But it could be the sign of the season if he keeps Burnley up. I think if Burnley stay up now because of him, that's the best sign of the season, and he could very well turn out to be because he's going to get some goals in, I think.
I rate him very highly.
I do. I do. He's not a typical Dutch forward, is he? Because there's a lot of Dutch media that don't like him playing for the national team because you can't really play a 4-3-3 with him because he's target man and you need someone to link up with. He suits a 4-4-2 really, or a 4-2 or a 4-2 kind of 4 type thing. But
with that in mind, he will thrive in Burnley settle.
I think he will, because they'll just throw balls in the box at him, which is a cardinal sin when you're a Dutch player playing for Holland. You can't put crosses or long balls. Everything's got to be into feet, hasn't it? So that's why he gets criticised sometimes when he's playing for his national team. But when you just let play to his strengths, he can be an absolutely lethal footballer.
Right, breaking news: deal sheet's gone in for Dele Alli.
Yep, so that's all done. We'll see him. Like I said, he's probably down in London. He won't be up on Merseyside tonight at Finch Farm. He'll be down in London doing a medical, and they'll have had someone run out to a JD or something to get an Everton shirt for him so he can hold it up. It'll be funny seeing what his unveiling photo is, because he'll be in some like hotel room, or he'll be in his house probably. I don't think he's going to have all the Everton backgrounds behind him unless they've set up some little mini version of it to do his player interview. Because that'll be what he's been doing for the past couple of hours. He'll be down there with a film crew, filming his unveiling video and doing a little 5-minute interview for the website, and then packing up all his stuff ahead of moving up here in the next few days. he won't be. It's not like he's up at Finch Farm and like it would be on other transfer days where you're thinking, oh, is he in the petrol station down the road just waiting for the call to come in and sign the deal? So yeah, it's all done, and I don't think there was any chance that we were not getting him. That Newcastle were going to hijack it. I think that was just all nonsense.
On the note of Newcastle, they have got another deal through though. It's Dan Burn from Brighton.
Where's he play?
Centre back, 6'7" centre back.
Do they play Burnley anytime soon? Because you'd want him up against Woodward, wouldn't you? But don't know. It was important that we strengthened because all the teams that we're, I don't like saying it, we're in the relegation battle with, they've all strengthened. Newcastle are better. Watford are better because they've got Hodgson in as manager, and he's the type of manager you want for a relegation battle because he's been there and done it. Burnley have got this Weghorst over the line, who you'd think's definitely going to get some goals for them. You've got Leeds, who look like they've picked up a little bit of form now, finally, even though they've been shocking all season. So it was really important that Everton finished this window a lot stronger than they were, not just in terms of manager, in terms of playing squad, than we were at the start of the month, and we've managed to do that. So fingers crossed that the next few months are really enjoyable, and it's not long at all before the relegation fears are just completely gone.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be a bit of a nail biter, to be honest, this season. Yeah.
At least for the first time in a while, though, I do feel like there is some sort of long-term plan taking shape, though, which is something Everton just have lacked for years and years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I think I'm just a bit too cynical and a bit too worn down by Everton's circus.
I feel your pain, mate. I feel your pain. I tell you what, just hang there.
I think it'll improve.
I tell you what, mate. Because you feel like that, we'll finish on this note. I'll get this back out again, and I know exactly what to show you. Another January deal that went absolutely brilliant for us on deadline day. Came in and he turned the season around and gave everyone hope, reason to hope again. Okay. Yes, this one. When we beat Man City and we had Nikica Jelavic sign. I think he used the Nikica Jelavic. That was a fantastic transfer deadline day. We got Pienaar, I think, as well. We played City that night and beat them, Darren Gibson. And it was transfer deadline day. And we had Jelavic all done and he came out on the pitch at half time. And then after the game, about 9:30, 10 o'clock, it was announced we'd managed to get Pienaar on loan from Tottenham. We just managed to get it over the line. And that turned the season completely around. It was all doom and gloom that year as well. Wasn't quite as bad as this. We weren't fearing we were going to go down, but it was kind of, where is the club going? We're just drifting further and further down the table. And then we brought in those two and it gave everyone hope again. And we ended up finishing fairly strongly that year. So hopefully the same again's on the cards.
Well, fingers crossed, eh?
Fingers crossed.
Well, yeah, there we go. It's officially 11 o'clock, guys. Transfer window is closed. But the deal sheet's in for Dele Alli, so that's going to be getting done. Should be announced, might be early tomorrow, maybe.
But it'll be announced, I think, before midnight. Like, we'll see like a photo of him in an Everton kit or with an Everton scarf before midnight. And then probably Wednesday now, when he's up here and he's moved and he's settled, we'll see the interview he's done with the club and all that. And we'll see training photos of him and things like that. So, yeah, we just got to hope that it works out because there is a player in there with a lot of talent. It's just whether he wants it enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's going to be an interesting one, I think, with Dele Alli. I think he's got to show that he can graft. I don't think that's something we've ever really associated with him.
I think he's just got to show that he's still in love with football, because I think he's fell out of love with football the last few years since Pochettino left Tottenham. If Pochettino would have told him he was lazy to his face, I think he'd have been mortified. The fact that it was Mourinho and the fact that he's probably not as focused anymore is what's led to his basically doing what he was doing. And if we can get maybe Lampard's just the right type of manager for him, because Mourinho and Conte were disciplinarians, weren't they? They were very much do as I say or else type thing, whereas I don't think Lampard is that way necessarily. I mean, he could lay the law down when he has to, by the sounds of it, but he's not the type of player who's going to shout at a player or try and publicly humiliate and embarrass a player. He's not the type of manager who is going to make a player feel really low about themselves, which is what Conte and Mourinho probably do, especially Mourinho. So hopefully he's going to be under the right manager, and he's going to have a fresh start at a new club. And we know if he starts off well, if he puts some graft in, Everton fans will get right behind him straight away. And maybe he'll feel the love from the supporters, and he'll think, yeah, I'm in love with football again, and I want to smash it here at Everton to repay them, and I want to get back in that England team and impress Gareth Southgate. Because as the other James touched on earlier on, the door is wide open for him to get in that World Cup squad, because Jadon Sancho's not really done anything at United. Lingard's not played enough because he's not leaving United either.
We'll be seeing Mason Greenwood play for England anytime soon.
Mason Greenwood, I think, is not going to be seeing football for anyone anywhere for, if not forever, then at least for the foreseeable future.
Rashford's quite out of form as well, isn't he?
Rashford's out of form, and he's had little niggles. So the chances there for Dele Alli to seize. If Dele Alli can come into Everton and get back to anything close to the player he was at the last World Cup, then he's going to walk back into the squad for this World Cup, and that will be good for Everton.
Certainly. I mean, he did very well, actually, at that 2018 World Cup, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And it wasn't even after that. He was good the season after that with Tottenham. He played a big role in helping them get to that Champions League final, didn't he? Under Poch.
It was post-Pochettino, really. I mean,
that's when it's all gone wrong. He's clearly just been Pochettino's boy, hasn't he, at Tottenham, and he believed in the Pochettino's vision and Pochettino's project, along with the likes of Harry Kane and the likes of Trippier and the likes of Kyle Walker and Lloris. And since that core squad group of players has kind of broke up and gone its separate ways, it just looks like a player who's just stopped enjoying playing football, and he just views it as maybe a job type thing. So if he can just come up to Everton, up to Merseyside, and feel a bit of love again, and have a manager who he knows has got his best interests at heart, like in Frank, then he'll really pull his finger out and want to graft for us and want to impress everyone.
Yeah, I'm hoping we do get.
I hope he sorts that Barnett out, though. I can't be doing with that haircut. I've seen the photos of him today with like multicoloured, whatever it is, on his head, similar to Ashley Williams, what he had towards the end.
It will be as well.
Don't get into voodoo in the city centre, mate, and get yourself a short back and sides, because that hair won't wash. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you just need to take one look at Iwobi and realise that, like, just do whatever he doesn't do.
Exactly, yeah. There's already one player with that haircut who's absolutely hated at this club. If you just shave your hair off, then you're already ahead of Iwobi in terms of the Boo Boy stakes.
Indeed. We'll be finishing up very shortly, but of course, Toffee Blues has asked here, what do you rate Everton's transfer window out of 5? Already get the comments coming in. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and dropping your comments. Badger's gone with 4 out of 5. Aaron Koeman, 3.5 out of 5. 3.5.
I'd give it a 3. I'd give it a 3 because we're happy that we've got some players in, but a lot of these players are unknowns. We don't know if Dele Alli is going to come here and do anything for us. We don't know what level Van der Beek is as a footballer in terms of can he cut it in the Premier League. Nathan Patterson's 20 and has barely played first team level at Rangers. I know all the scouts and all the in the know say that he's got quality written all over him, but until you actually see it for yourself, you just don't know. And the same with Michaelenko. He's come from a very minnows league and he hasn't played enough football yet to suggest whether or not he's got what it takes to cut at this level. But we've signed a lot of players with potential, and that's good. And players who are not all in the late 20s or 30s. So there's still a chance we can move them on if it doesn't work out and at least get our money back. So I'd give it a 3 out of 5, but I could be looking back at the end of the season saying it was a 4.5 out of 5 or even a 5 out of 5. We just have to hope these players end up fulfilling the promise that they're supposedly got.
Living in the promise, really, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if we can get a few more comments in. Hopefully we might see a glimpse of Dele Alli in the next 10 minutes or so. Not a lot as of yet.
One fella we've not mentioned, and I just forgot to mention him then, but he's just come to mind, and we've not seen him at all, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Do you think we'll see anything of El Ghazi? Do you think he'll play at all?
That's intriguing, actually, yeah.
Because... Yeah, it's like everyone's just forgot about him, haven't they? Because obviously he was a signing that doesn't get anyone excited, and there's rumours that it was Mishiri and Kia, whatever his name is, Jarapakan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was their move behind that signing, so everyone just immediately kind of wrote him off because we don't like the people who were supposedly behind the deal. All the Villa fans who talk about him say he's one of these typical players where one week he can look absolutely world class, and then the next week he just won't look like he's even wants to be there. So maybe it could be the same with him, where he just needs a change of environment and he needs a different type of manager in his ear, and he needs somewhere he can feel like he's getting challenged to show his best forms, because he's got talent as well, Al Ghazi. But do you think we're going to see anything of him, or do you think he's found himself in a very, very tough position where another manager or another regime kind of arranged for him to come in, and now that regime's changed right from under him, he's basically stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he's not really going to get much of a chance?
Yeah, it's quite a complicated situation. I think El Ghazi, there's so much. He was signed under Benitez. He was on the bench for Norwich and then couldn't play against Villa, so we didn't know if Duncan Ferguson, in the absence of Benitez, rated him. So we've got nothing to really run with. We'll soon know. Give it a couple of games.
We'll see him.
If he's in the
I think we'll see him somewhat. I think Frank will give him a chance. I don't think Frank will come in and think, I didn't sign you and I didn't rate you whenever I've played against you with my team, so I'm not giving you a chance. I think Frank's not that way. I think Frank will give him a chance, whether it's during games or whether it's in training. I think he will get a fair crack at the whip. And if we don't see Al Ghazi much between now and the end of the season, it's because he's not good enough and because he's not doing enough in training. I don't know. Has anyone else got any thoughts? Because he's kind of just, everyone's forgotten about that one, hasn't he? I don't think anyone's mentioned him all night. Does anyone else have any hopes for El Ghazi at all? Do you think he'll get any game time, or do you think we were probably better off just cancelling him alone and sending him back to Villa? If we could, and if we'd have done that, we could have possibly got another player on loan from a Premier League club, because he was filling up it was him and Van der Beek, aren't they, taking up the 2 slots? Is anyone unhappy that we've not cancelled it, seemingly?
It's a good point. I think I'm surprised we didn't loan someone in from abroad, to be honest.
It just depends. Maybe there was no one available who we rated in a position we needed. Because I said, I think they were looking for the likes of a number 6 and a centre half, but maybe the option of the people who they've settled on are just not available right now, and they'd rather wait for them. It was always the way under Moyes, wasn't it? It would always feel like we get a random loan from abroad on deadline day, and it would kind of put a bit of a gloss on the whole thing, wouldn't it? Moyes did it more than once, but market's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was always one of them. It was usually those type of players just pad out the squad anyway, like Segundo Castillo.
Yeah, remember him, yeah, and the likes of Philip Senderos, and the likes of
Royston Drenthe.
Again, another player who did the exact opposite of what he needed to. He needed to come here and get his head down and stop with all the off-the-field distractions, and he did the complete opposite. He let the temptations get to him, so...
Yeah, Eamon Koeman says, I think El Ghazi will play at some point. Just feels a weird signing. But on a more positive note, Eamon has touched on, thank God we haven't signed Ross Barkley.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That is a big positive.
It's a big positive. I was terrified we were going to get him, and the situation had got that dire that a lot of fans were talking themselves into bringing Barkley back. They were saying, well, we do need a ball carrier in the team, and Barkley fills that. No, come on. It's Ross Barkley. Not only is he a rat who cheated the club out of millions, he's thick as pig shit, and he's not done anything for the past 2 or 3 years. He's another player who's fell out of love with football. And if he's going to get his passion back, and unlike Dele Alli, he's had chances in other places to rekindle it, and he hasn't. He went to Villa, got his loan move to Villa, the perfect opportunity for him to kind of get his career back on track, and he didn't take it, did he? So if he wasn't able to sort himself out when he went on loan to Villa with a Dean Smith, a manager who seemed perfect for him, then why would he come back here where he's hated and rekindle his love for football here?
A few more signings coming through from other teams. Aubameyang's gone to Barcelona.
Yeah, they've sorted that one out officially. Strange, because I know obviously there was no way back for him at Arsenal, but I'd have thought he'd have just took a payday and gone to the East or something, or gone to MLS. But it seems like he's still hungry, isn't it? And he could be the difference between Barca getting in the Champions League and not getting in the Champions League.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Oh, poor Vinny O'Connor. He's still standing outside Finch Farm. I imagine he's just given that news that you broke before, that the team sheet's gone in, but it's windy and it's raining, and he looks like he wants to be anywhere else. He looks like he really wants to get home and have a cup of tea and get in bed.
Oh God. Yeah, it's gonna be a long night by the looks of it. Someone's put Toffee Blues has just put in other news, Liverpool's bid to sign Carvalho has fallen through.
If they rate him high enough, they'll go back and get him in the summer. I think they just won't have him now because Fulham won't part with him in the middle of the season during a promotion push unless Liverpool
Marco Silva, the top, he's probably just done it for a little wind up.
All right, I'm gonna have to go, mate. Okay, so we'll call it a night.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in on the live stream tonight, guys. Keep your comments coming in, and of course, I'm sure we'll be back with a little discussion on Dele Alli very soon. With it almost guaranteed now that he's going to sign it. It's just a matter of when. It might be tonight, it might be tomorrow morning. But of course, guys, keep your eyes glued to Twitter. I'm sure our Twitter handle at Everton Newsfeed. Keep an eye on that. I'm sure we'll be bringing you that as soon as it comes through. Keep your comments coming in. Thanks for tuning in. Give this stream a like and, of course, subscribe for more content. And until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.